The first thing I did after becoming an orphan was to gather formula and diapers because I adopted a human baby. What I didn't expect was that this baby would end up being the reincarnated human empress. In her past life, she fought across the world, enduring countless life and death trials. She killed many powerful beings from other races and ultimately died of exhaustion at the hands of the insect queen mother from space. Now, she has reincarnated at the beginning of the apocalypse 50 years ago, but as a powerless baby. Just as I arrived, I was attacked by orphans. When I opened my eyes again, I discovered I had become a bloodthirsty monster, a zombie. Yet I still retained my human consciousness. Every day, I ate frozen meat from the fridge to quell my hunger. Just as I was about to get food as usual, I noticed a baby about 5 or 6 months old in a room. I saw many toys and children's clothes around the house. On the nightstand, there was spoiled milk, and the blood in the living room seemed to indicate that the child's parents had probably suffered an accident. Shui, for a moment, was on the verge of tears. She couldn't believe that after so long she had reincarnated, but instead of being welcomed by joyful parents, she was attacked by a bloodthirsty zombie. In her past life, with just a flick of her finger, she could destroy everything, but now she was a powerless baby, unable even to lift a finger. She hadn't eaten for a long time, and the fear she felt at that moment made her faint from sheer terror and hunger. I looked at the little one who neither cried nor made a sound. Do I look so terrifying? Did I scare you to death? I quickly reached out to check if she was still breathing. Upon realizing she was, I calmed down. She was so hungry that she couldn't even cry. I felt an inexplicable sense of pity in my heart. In a way, this baby and I were similar. We both arrived in this strange world without knowing how. On top of that, we both had the misfortune of encountering the apocalypse and the orphans. That's why I decided to raise this baby. At least in this desolate apocalypse, I would finally have some company. Even though I had already become an orphan due to the virus, I never thought I would turn into a bloodthirsty monster. Realizing this, I discovered that the owner of this house had been dead for at least 2 days. This little one hadn't eaten in a long time. I needed to get some milk first. This baby, about 7 or 8 months old, was too small. Other foods were indigestible. Only formula would work. The formula container on the nightstand was already empty. I had no choice but to go out and find more. I left the room, locked the door tightly, and moved the heavy sofa in the living room to block the entrance completely. Then I went to the kitchen, but there was no food. It made sense. The zombie plague had been going on for a month, so all the food must have been gone. Maybe this child's parents had gone out in search of food, which led to their misfortune. With no other options, I had to go to the upper floors. I climbed to the 5th floor and used a lever to break the lock and open a security door. Upon entering the room, the scene left me frozen in place. Inside, there was a zombie woman. Her white dress was completely stained with blood. Hearing the noise, she rushed toward the door, but upon seeing that another of her kind was standing outside, she reluctantly withdrew. As I stepped inside, I saw the floor covered in blood and a human corpse about 1.5 meters tall. Clearly, after the zombie outbreak, the housewife had turned into a zombie, and the child she had loved the most in life had ended up being devoured. I stood there, immersed in deep silence. I thought of the little one I had seen earlier. If the baby hadn't been locked in the bedroom, she would likely have met the same fate. Perhaps it was a stroke of luck amid the disaster. Although the child was born into this apocalypse, at least she encountered a zombie like me, one that doesn't eat humans. I then went to the kitchen and finally found 2 unopened cans of formula. I also found raw meat that hadn't yet decomposed. The owner of the house had likely turned into a zombie at the beginning of the apocalypse, so the food remained intact. I packed everything into my backpack, glanced at the zombie still wandering near the door, and after a brief moment of silence, I approached from behind. With the lever in hand, I struck its skull in a single blow, freeing it completely. Shui, who had fainted, suddenly smelled a sweet, delicious aroma filling her mouth. The strong scent of milk left her momentarily entranced. Meanwhile, her starving body, which hadn't felt this sweetness in a long time, instinctively began to suck. slowly regaining a bit of energy. Finally, Shui managed to open her eyes with difficulty. She was surprised to discover that she hadn't died at the hands of a zombie. Even more shocking was that the fierce zombie was feeding her with a spoon. Am I dreaming, or am I so hungry that I'm hallucinating? She looked in disbelief at the zombie in front of her, who seemed like some kind of nanny. In her past life's memories, orphans were all mindless creatures that only knew bloodlust. After the orphan crisis, many of her friends and comrades had died at their hands. Even she had to eliminate several companions who had been bitten and lost their sanity. That's why, when she saw an orphan before her, Shui knew that her fate was already sealed. Those bloodthirsty monsters without humanity would not spare her just because she was a baby. But she did not expect that, instead of devouring her, the orphan was even feeding her. Could it be that this orphan plans to raise me only to devour me later? While feeding the baby, I saw that the little one opened her eyes again, which made me feel a little more at ease. When she finished the formula, I noticed that the little one continued looking at me with her bright eyes. She clearly had not eaten enough. Seriously, can this small body drink so much? I said something without thinking, but then I remembered that I am now a zombie and cannot speak. I could only emit some incomprehensible grunts. That scared Jiru Shui. This is bad. This zombie surely wants me to get full only to devour me later. Shui, who had just relaxed, tensed up again upon hearing the zombie's grunt. Just as she prepared to be devoured, she noticed that the zombie turned away and left. Shortly after, Irui heard a mixing sound. A little later, I returned with a new bowl of formula. Ui was surprised. She had never experienced anything so strange before. Although there was still some fear and concern in her heart, her body instinctively continued sucking. I had to prepare 3 bowls of formula before she was finally satisfied. Looking at the milk stains at the corner of her mouth, I could feel there was still a certain unsatisfied desire in her eyes. This little one really can eat a lot, even though I have never married or raised a child. From what I know, such a small baby should not be eating this much. It seems that if I want to adopt this little one, the pressure in the future will be much greater. Now I understand why, in my past life, so many companions worked so hard just to earn money to buy formula. Raising a child really isn't easy. But at least now we are in the apocalypse, and I can go anywhere to get things without paying. I am not worried about not having enough financial power. It seems that when I go out to look for supplies, I should bring more formula. This little one will probably eat more and more. Besides, formula is usually sealed, so it can be stored for a long time. After eating and drinking, Irusu lay comfortably in the crib with a satisfied expression. After going hungry for so long, finally drinking milk was no different from a precious elixir. Irui looked at me curiously. It was the first time she had seen something so strange. The orphan, who should have been a bloodthirsty creature, devouring flesh everywhere, had curiously repressed its bloodthirsty impulse. Not throwing itself at her to devour her immediately was already surprising, but beyond that, it was preparing formula and even feeding her with a spoon. This is completely absurd. Ui, in her past life, had experienced the apocalypse from beginning to end and managed to survive until the very last moment. She had faced countless dangers and overcome life and death trials to become an incomparable empress. What kind of orphan have I never seen before? I could even say that the number of orphans that have died at my hands is countless. Although these orphans continue evolving over time and gradually develop intelligence, that cannot happen now. At least the orphan in front of me has very low energy. Clearly, it is a newly transformed low-level orphan, a first-level orphan. This kind of zombie is everywhere. They are those who transform after being infected by the orphan virus. And this level of orphan is definitely incapable of developing intelligence. They are just a group of bloodthirsty beasts following their instincts. Irui looked at this orphan in front of her and could not understand what was happening. But as an incomparable empress, she had already gone through all kinds of life and death crises. So even when facing an orphan, she did not panic. In any case, for some reason, at least for now, this orphan had no intention of devouring her, so there was no reason to worry too much. Even if the orphan really wanted to attack her, at least she had filled her stomach. Before dying, She would at least not die of hunger in the crib. That was not a bad way to go. Thinking about all this, Irui began to feel sleepy. After several days of hunger and fear, her nerves had been extremely tense. Now, after eating, she finally relaxed. Irusu's eyes slowly closed. She could no longer avoid falling into a deep sleep. I looked at the adorable baby I had personally fed, saving her young life. Without knowing why, I felt a sense of accomplishment. Seeing the baby lying peacefully in the crib, with an expression of calm and beauty, I felt a warm sensation in my heart. From now on, in this city devastated by orphans, I will no longer be alone. Little one, we are companions in misfortune. We both arrived in this strange world and faced the orphan crisis. Don't worry, I will take good care of you. Irusu slept deeply. She did not even know that. Even though there was a bloodthirsty orphan near her, she was still safe. Of blood by your side slept so peacefully, not even knowing how long you had slept, only feeling that now you were floating in the air. It so happens that the orphan had risen. The successive actions of this orphan left Irusu even more confused, but at that moment, they were more concerned with knowing where he was taking them. I held the baby in my arms and left the room. The place where I had fallen after the orphan's explosion was an old neighborhood. The apartment building had 7 floors and no elevator, so I decided to move to the 7th floor. The night before, I had already eliminated all the remaining orphans in the corridor. Upon reaching the 7th floor, I placed Ui in the dormitory I had already prepared. This is the top floor. It offers great protection against the spread of odors and sounds. At least for now, it is a safe place to live. Faced with this baby, I truly tried to recover what had been of me as a human. So I decided to make this house a home for her and for myself. In the future, I must also start recovering my human life. The room, which was full of dust, I had already cleaned before. The most important thing is that in this room, I found many baby clothes, diapers, bottles, toys, and children's books. The owner of this room had probably also had children. It is very likely that after the orphan's explosion, the entire family had fled in a hurry. I stopped in front of the window and looked outside, then stretched slowly. I don't know if it was because of the baby, but even looking at this destroyed world through the window, I felt my heart fill with motivation and hope. Then I took a diaper and prepared to change Ui, absorbent, dry without getting wet. Disposable diapers are truly one of humanity's great inventions. Ui suddenly felt her scalp tingle. She was already used to being fed by zombies, but now it so happened that they were also changing her diaper. This was completely different from the basic instinct of feeding her. A baby diaper is a unique human invention. It is not something one can do merely by instinct. Suddenly, a surprising thought arose in Irui's mind. Could this zombie be retaining human consciousness? Immediately, she remembered her first encounter with this zombie. Other zombies only knew how to bang on doors or perhaps scratch themselves with their fingers. But this zombie knew how to open the door. Since the dormitory was locked, he had used a lever to unlock it. Before, Ushu, due to extreme hunger and fear, had not noticed this. But now, recalling it, she realized something was not right. When had a zombie ever used a lever? Then, this zombie not only did not devour her, but also used a bottle to prepare formula and fed her. That was completely logical. Today, he even changed her diaper. Could there be anything more absurd than that? At that moment, Irui felt deeply moved, as if she had discovered a new world. But wait a moment. This zombie in front of me does not seem to be a woman. The empress had been replaced by a man. Irusu opened her eyes in surprise, finally reacting and realizing that she had been observed naked. She felt extremely agitated. One must remember that in her past life, she had never even touched a man's hand. Even in the midst of the apocalypse, Irui had never had close contact with the opposite sex. And now, she could not believe it. Her purity had been destroyed by a diaper. Irusu felt completely desolate. She could not believe that after reincarnating, all kinds of things were happening to her. This zombie is really treating me as if I were his daughter. Thinking about this, her heart skipped a beat, and a tragic story involuntarily emerged in her mind. Perhaps this zombie, before the apocalypse, had a daughter he loved dearly. But in the apocalypse, Human life became insignificant in the face of the wave of bloodthirsty orphans. Humans almost no longer existed, especially at the beginning of the zombie explosion. For ordinary humans living in cities, there was no hope of survival. Probably this zombie's daughter had already died after the arrival of the apocalypse, but he still thought of his daughter. That love which goes beyond life and death. That love which goes beyond life and death made this zombie, who should be bloodthirsty, treat me as his daughter. That love, which goes beyond life and death, made this zombie, who should be bloodthirsty, treat me as his daughter. And everything he did for me, actually what he had done for his daughter. Even though he had turned into a zombie, he still could not abandon the love for his daughter. Irusu felt a mixture of emotions. Irui felt a mixture of emotions, and also felt pity for him. Imagine a human who had a happy family. Imagine a human who had a happy family, and suddenly faces the apocalypse. Everything he knew and loved completely changed. He himself became a bloodthirsty zombie and lost his dearest family. The saddest thing is that after losing everything, he retained his human consciousness, although he was already dead. He continued suffering and living. He went on living alone in that destroyed city, which no longer had a single intact piece of land. He wandered among the orphans without a true companion to relate to. Due to his human consciousness, he could not live like the other zombies, leading a life of blind slaughter and chaos. But having turned into a zombie, he could no longer integrate into human society either. He could only see his former companions pointing their weapons at him, their eyes filled with contempt and hatred. Neither the zombies nor the humans had a place to belong. The entire city was engulfed in darkness. Before leaving, I blocked the entrance to the stairs on the 7th floor. Besides, the zombies in this building had already been completely eliminated. The zombies outside generally don't climb stairs without reason. The little one is still very young and won't make loud noises in the room. But what I do is, on one hand, to avoid the zombies, and on the other, to avoid the humans. Since I became a zombie, I have lived in the store for a month. Through the windows, I have seen many tragedies after the apocalypse collapsed. At first, in the face of the crisis, most people still maintained some level of calm and kindness. But as the deaths increased and food became scarce, the hidden darkness in human nature began to manifest. Those who were kinder and more willing to help mostly died early on at the hands of the zombies. I remember that in the first days after the collapse of the apocalypse, the cries of women were often heard in the streets. Just by hearing that sound, one already knew what had happened. After half a month, the city began to run out of water, electricity, and some even started bartering with meat just to get a little food. Some even pushed their companions toward the zombies just to escape alone. And this became common in the apocalypse. I saw with my own eyes that due to the lack of food, some survivors were already desperate with hunger. They did not dare face the bloodthirsty zombies, but they raised their knives against their own companions. Even after turning into zombies, I could still control my desire to hunt humans. But some still alive began to kill each other and devour their companions. These people had already lost the most basic essence of humanity. They didn't even deserve to be called human. They didn't even spare children. If those zombies find the little one, the consequences would be unthinkable. For a simple meal, they would do anything. Shortly after, I filled a large mountaineering backpack with food. What remained, I carried in my arms. If any survivor had night vision, they would see a very strange scene in the dark and silent street. A bloodthirsty zombie carrying a large amount of infant formula and walking silently. Meanwhile, when Jusu woke up, he found the room empty. Where did my zombie dad go during the night? I feel like urinating. Well, at least I have diapers. This invention really genius. Just then, Ju-Hui, through the window that wasn't completely closed, saw the blood moon in the sky. At that moment, it looked extremely strange. The blood moon. Today is the night of the blood moon. It seems that the era of global evolution is about to begin. Looking at the blood moon above my head, I felt somewhat disoriented. I went to a corner, opened the can of formula, and saw that it was still white. I sighed in relief. I thought my eyes had gotten sick and turned red. My eyes are normal, but that means the moon really has turned blood red. I paid no further attention to the changes in the sky. I spent the entire night frantically transporting formula, baby bottles, diapers, everything a baby needs. I also brought a variety of snacks and children's toys. I didn't even forget the children's books. Even though we are in the apocalypse, I still need to teach the little one to read and speak. Jusu looked at the 2013 university entrance exam simulation book I had brought and suddenly felt a chill down my spine. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's not even a year old yet. And I'm already making him solve university entrance exams. Isn't that a little too rushed? Besides, we are at the end of the world, and still, exams. It didn't take long for the nearly 100 square meter room to be completely packed. At that moment, I felt a strange heat in my body. I need to remember that I am a zombie. My blood stopped circulating long ago and has turned into a thick, dark brown liquid. But then I started feeling an itch in my brain, as if my head was about to explode. I crouched in the corner, holding my head, my body trembling uncontrollably. I didn't know what was happening to me. Could it be that my human experience card has expired? Am I going to turn into one of those zombies that only know how to drink blow? I fought so hard to regain my life, to find new hope and a new purpose, and finally, in this destroyed world, I found someone to live with. I won't give up so easily. Even though I don't know what is happening to me or what I will become, I need to stay conscious. The black veins on my body started to fade, turning into a bluish hue. At the same time, the horrible wound on my shoulder, which had been there for a month, was now completely dry and cracked. It was dirty and disgusting, but somehow it was beginning to heal slowly. Although it hadn't returned to its original form, at least it no longer looked as grotesque and terrifying as before. My nails also began to change, and those sharp, loose teeth became slightly more aligned. Meanwhile, on this dark night, the roars of zombies suddenly began to echo. Many zombies under the light of the moon were going through the same transformation as me. Their bodies began to tremble. Some survivors, under the red glow of the moon, started feeling heat within their bodies. Without realizing it, they began to experience some changes. In the dormitory, Yuch Shui was also being bathed in the red moonlight. Outside, her small body began to tremble slightly. Jushu felt an intense heat spreading throughout her body. I don't know how much time passed, but when I woke up again, I realized I was lying in the street. I moved my body a little and noticed it had become more agile. My strength had also increased enormously. Looking at the zombies around me, I saw that they had also undergone a remarkable change. Those disgusting and decayed zombies, after this night, looked slightly more human. It seems that after the blood moon, the monotonous life began to change a little. Somehow, I ended up in this strange world, living each day aimlessly. But now, finally, something is changing. Repetitive life becomes boring over time. Just when I was about to take the supplies home as I passed by a zombie, I suddenly felt a strange sensation in my heart. It seemed that somehow there was a connection. It can't be. After so much time alone, this isn't possible. But soon I realized that this unique connection wasn't because I had strange feelings for that zombie. Instead, I felt that countless threads were emerging in my mind, connecting me to that zombie. They seemed like unconscious puppets, as if their heads were empty, and I seemed to have a special ability. I could transfer my thoughts through these invisible threads, as if I were controlling a puppet with strings. I quickly began to test my hypothesis. Concentrating, I started to feel that the connection with the zombie in front of me was strengthening. In no time, the zombie that had been staggering suddenly stopped, straightened up, raised its hands, and in the middle of the ruined street, began doing chest expansion exercises. I called this strange ability corpse control. It seems that I also have the presence of a great emperor. I didn't stop controlling the zombies. They danced, played basketball, and even rapped. The only problem was that these zombies couldn't speak. Besides, for now, I could only control 2 zombies at the same time, and if they were too far away, I couldn't give precise orders. Suddenly, I remembered that the little one was at home. so I quickly controlled zombies 1 and 2 and ordered them to collect the supplies I had gathered earlier. I immediately headed for the neighborhood. Meanwhile, in the 7th floor dormitory, Irui finally awakened from her long sleep after the night of the red moon. She woke up with extraordinary abilities, mental control. With just a thought, she could control objects, fly through the air, move things from a distance, etc. It was a completely out-of-the-ordinary ability. What surprised Irui the most was that she not only awakened her mental control ability, but also regained the extraordinary powers of her past life, time control. After several experiments and a long period of analyzing cases in her past life, someone had already proposed that the awakening of extraordinary abilities could be closely related to the human soul. Different souls would have different extraordinary powers, and Irui felt incredibly excited. This time, she was much stronger than in her past life. After all, besides her original foundation, she now possessed the ability to control minds. Now she considered herself a dual-talented person. In her past life, with only time control, she successfully survived the apocalypse, grew stronger, and the terrifying power of time granted her the ability to dominate the entire battlefield. She could make the battlefield stop, speed up or slow down the flow of time around her or her opponents. This talent was almost a divine power. It was thanks to this extraordinary power that Irui finally became an empress. And in this life, she not only had time control, but also mental control. At that moment, Irui heard some noises outside the room. Had her zombie father returned? While lying in bed, she felt growing curiosity in her heart. Could that low-level zombie with human consciousness be able to evolve after the red moon? Would he be able to evolve successfully, or would he be like humans? Would he be capable of awakening extraordinary powers like humans? Would he be able to awaken supernatural abilities? Meanwhile, I quickly reached the rooftop and saw that the cabinet I had left in the hallway was still in place, intact. Relieved, I sighed. This time when I left, I came across the blood moon. The most important thing is that I passed out. It's the first time since I arrived in this world that I feel some attachment. I ran quickly back to the room and saw that the little one on the bed was looking at me with open eyes. Although I had never had a romantic relationship before, this scene made me feel as if I were a father. A baby so calm and adorable in this apocalyptic world. He seems to have the power to purify everything. Little one, you've been without me for so long. You must be hungry. I went to the kitchen to prepare the powdered milk. While mixing the milk, Juhui also watched me. This zombie father realized that many changes had occurred in my body. Now, I seemed more human, but this change was not very evident. It was not the same as in Jusu's records. In Jirushi's memory, zombies started as simple first-level zombies after the emergence. From that red moon, everyone experienced strange changes. The zombies that evolved because of the red moon grew in size. Those who were previously 1.70 meters or 1.80 meters tall after the evolution reached heights of 2 or 3 meters. The dimensions of their muscles also grew in a terrifying manner. Their skin became extremely resistant, and their bones far surpassed those of common beings. These zombies, with their robust bodies, were much stronger than normal zombies. When they appeared on the battlefield, they were extremely difficult to defeat, as they possessed overwhelming strength. Because of this, zombies of this evolutionary line were generally called tank-type zombies by humans. It could be said that they were the nightmare. They could be said to be the nightmare of most survivors, as many of the weapons survivors possessed simply couldn't hurt them. There were also zombies, whose primary evolutionary path was agility. In this case, they did not acquire large and terrifying bodies. Their evolution focused on their limbs and lethal claws. The most crucial thing about these zombies was that they could use their powerful strength in their limbs and curved claws like blades to climb walls and even ceilings upside down. Their muscles were like springs, giving them incredible jumping ability and speed. Thanks to their agility and unusual posture, they could move extremely easily in the air, making them difficult targets for humans to hit. But that wasn't the scariest part. The true terror of this type of zombie was its tongue, which also mutated. Now, it could move freely, possessing enough strength to break bricks and stones, becoming a deadly weapon of attack. Jiru Shui remembered very well a survivor camp he had been in, where, in a past life, the leader of this camp was incredibly strong, but due to a lack of experience in dealing with these special zombies, he ended up being defeated. Just as they were about to defeat that zombie, he was betrayed by the creature's terrifying tongue and fell. Due to this zombie's peculiarities, the survivors nicknamed it the Tongue Devourer, mainly because of the frightening way its tongue extended and retracted. Bones grew from its spine, and with evolution, these bones eventually developed a membrane that formed a pair of bony wings, allowing it to fly. There were even extremely rare elemental zombies capable of launching elemental attacks, just like some humans who awakened abilities. However, the father zombie before me seemed completely normal. Even after undergoing a blood mutation, he did not appear to have undergone any significant changes. Thinking about this, Jiru Shui couldn't help but feel disappointed. She had hoped to see a different father today. After all, everyone wishes for their loved ones to have enough power to survive in the apocalypse. This was an extremely difficult task. Jiru Shui actually had great confidence in her zombie father. After all, it was obvious that he was very special. He still possessed human consciousness, something extremely rare in the apocalypse. Even though she had been an empress in her past life, Jiru Shui had never encountered an existence like this before. She thought to herself, "Poor zombie father, when the empress grows up, I will protect you." Although Jiru Shui had experienced the cruelty of the apocalypse, she still upheld her own principles. To her, surviving did not mean abandoning humanity. Living rationally in the apocalypse did not mean becoming completely insensitive. Even in her past life, Jiru Shui had always been someone who repaid her debts and returned favors. Now, with her reincarnation, this was even more certain. A baby. A completely vulnerable baby. If it weren't for her strange zombie father, Jiru Shui could imagine what fate awaited her. Either she would be torn apart and devoured by a zombie, or she would slowly starve to death in a crib. It could be said that this zombie father had not only given her a second chance, but also the value of living. And Jiru Shui always repaid favors, especially when it came to something so grand. Even though her zombie father was quite ordinary, merely a low-level zombie, that did not matter. Jiru Shui had already made a decision. No matter what happened, she would protect him for life. "You took care of me when I was little. I will take care of you when you are old." These words should never be empty promises, especially not for someone like Jiru Shui, who had been reborn. She also knew many of the ways zombies evolved. Most zombies evolved primarily by devouring living beings, using the flesh and blood of others to fuel their energy. For example, zombies devoured humans or animals, and in a way this was a biological instinct for evolution. However, there was another method, devouring the crystalline cores formed in the brains of their own kind. Zombies who awakened supernatural abilities formed a unique crystalline core in their brains, and this core was the main source of their abilities. However, only awakened zombies could possess this core in their brains. Ordinary zombies did not have it. Jiru Shui had already made up her mind. Even if her father had an ordinary constitution, who said she wasn't an empress in her past life? She had managed to carve her way through the apocalypse and rise to the rank of empress. With her experience and memory, and now with a powerful awakened ability, Jiru Shui believed her life would be faster and stronger than in her past life. In the end, when I grow up, I will steal the crystalline cores from other evolved zombies. Jiru Shui had already made her resolution. Even if she had to pile up those crystalline cores to transform her zombie father into an advanced zombie, she would do it. When he became an advanced zombie, he would undergo a great transformation. This type of zombie would already have the ability to speak and would no longer be limited to just grunting like the others. "Don't worry, Dad. I am a promising investment. I will feed you and never let you lack anything. It's delicious." I don't know what was going through the little one's mind. She just stared at me intently. and I couldn't help but smile at the sight. Her black eyes were so bright and adorable. Whether in this life or the previous one, it was the first time I had ever observed a baby so closely. Suddenly, I realized that babies somehow possess an inherent hope that draws us all in. Little one, you can grow up peacefully. Don't worry about the outside world. I've already secured 2 new guardians. They're downstairs, guarding the entrance. With them here, our life will be much safer. I sat beside the crib, calmly watching the baby. Little one, grow up quickly. Daddy brought many toys for you, Barbie dolls and stuffed bears. You don't have to worry about wasting time playing. I also brought the mock exams for the 3 years of high school. Now I truly feel like the father of this little one I happened to find. I'm raising her as if she were my biological daughter. After thinking for a while, I decided to give her a name. You will be called Kiki. Kiki, don't worry. Daddy will let you grow up without worries. Even in the apocalypse, I will give you a refuge that will be your own paradise in this world. I looked at my work from that night and nodded in satisfaction. Now the different storage spaces in this house and the empty places are filled with all the supplies I managed to gather. Even though Kiki has a good appetite, there's certainly enough food for her for a long time. After all, the little one is still just a baby. No matter how much she can eat, for now she can only drink formula. I've already prepared enough provisions. I decided to stay home for a while. In the apocalypse, the most important thing is survival. Besides, now that I've awakened the ability to control zombies, it means this world is not as simple as I thought. The blood moon that appeared last night made me feel quite uneasy. I noticed changes in my body. I can't be sure if the others, the zombies, will experience the same. No one knows what strange powers zombies might gain after evolving. I decided to stay in a safe place for a while. After all, I just reincarnated into this world and was already attacked by a zombie. After feeding Kiki milk, I stayed in the building, watching. I waited until I was sure the outside world was calm before considering going out. Either way, I've already gathered enough supplies, and I don't mind staying a few more days. This world is very strange. At every moment, surprising changes happen. If I were alone, I could simply accept this inhumane life, but now I have Kiki. I need to become stronger. I went to the living room and picked up a steel machete about 1/2 meter long. The blade was thick and straight, ideal for long cutting sessions. It was a typical blade for cutting wood. However, the old rules no longer apply in this apocalypse. After the transformation brought by the blood moon, in addition to controlling other zombies through invisible threads, my physique also improved considerably. My agility is now similar to that of a regular human. Before, my limbs were stiff, and I could only perform simple bodily movements. But now, even wielding this steel machete, I can handle it fluidly in the air. The blade shines and cuts with force. Even though I haven't trained in sword techniques, as a zombie, my physical strength is even greater than that of a regular human. Following the movements of martial arts novels and the techniques from the movies I used to watch, I started practicing strikes with the machete in the living room. The blade is extremely sharp, practically a melee combat weapon. The destructive power of this machete is far greater than that of an iron bar. I'm confident. With this machete, I'm sure I can split a zombie's head in two with a single strike. While practicing the sword techniques, Jusu began reflecting on his innate abilities in this life. Jusu has 2 very powerful innate abilities. One is time control, which can be activated whenever he has enough mental power. The other is the newly awakened ability of Jiru Shui, telekinesis control. Jiru Shui concentrated all his mental energy, directing his attention to a silver needle on the bedside table. Under the control of his mental power, the needle slowly began to float in the air, hovering over his head. It was truly an incredible sight. Although his control over objects was still a bit slow, Jusu was certain that given enough time to practice, this ability would become a powerful tool, capable of killing without being seen. And as his mental power increased, the weight of the objects he could control would also grow. Now, he was using a silver needle, but perhaps soon, he could control flying knives. 2 days passed quickly. During these 2 days, I practiced machete techniques in the living room, and Jiru practiced his levitation power in the bedroom. We lived well, each of us striving to improve the other's life. That day, after feeding Yuch-Chu milk, I suddenly noticed something moving outside. I looked down from the balcony window and saw two zombies fighting in the street. The noise of the fight was quite loud, otherwise I wouldn't have heard it from the 7th floor. Seeing this, I was confused. There was no human figure nearby. After a month living alongside these companions, I had learned a lot about them. Although zombies are insatiable and seem like emotionless killing machines, they usually don't attack each other, unless food is involved. It's rare to see zombies fighting among themselves, but there was clearly no food in dispute here. Something was not right with those two zombies. Suddenly I realized they were different. One of them was taller and muscular, while the other was smaller but much faster than a common zombie. There was no doubt that if I faced that muscular zombie, a single blow from him could break my bones. The other one had a thinner torso, but its claws looked like long blades, capable of leaving deep marks on cars. Watching the fight between these two powerful zombies from above, I felt great concern. I feared the effects of the last cycle of the blood moon. Now I see that my decision to stay home was very wise. The combat ability of these two zombies is far superior to mine. During these 2 days of practicing with a machete, I was confident that I could face common zombies and defeat them easily. But now, these two down there have given me a lesson in humility. If Jusu were here, he would undoubtedly recognize these two types of zombies. One is a tank-type zombie with a robust constitution, and the other is an agile zombie. These two types are common among evolved zombies and are also among the most problematic for survivors at the beginning of the apocalypse. Although I don't know exactly what kind of evolution they have undergone, I can affirm that both, regardless of their abilities, represent a real threat to common zombies. I feel grateful for being cautious. If I hadn't stayed home for so long, I probably would have been attacked and killed by these two zombies. Now I feel relieved by my decision. After all, if I had gone out earlier, what would have happened to me? Murdered by these two zombies. This world is much more terrifying than I had imagined. I wonder why these two zombies started fighting. Could it be that all the zombies out there are already so hungry? I don't think that's the case. This world is much more terrifying than I imagined. However, I am curious to know why these two zombie heads started fighting. Are the zombies out there so hungry? That can't be it. Zombie flesh is disgusting. I doubt one of them thinks my flesh is tasty. The sound of the battle between the two zombies below is getting louder. Some nearby cars were hit and torn apart by them. Finally, after a fierce fight, the tank-type zombie broke the agile zombie's spine. Seeing that sent shivers down my spine. But at that moment, I noticed that the tank-type zombie took something from the head of the other zombie, a white core. What is that? When I saw the white core, a strange desire arose in my heart. It seems that I really want to obtain that object. Even though I don't know what it is, I can feel that my body instinctively desires this object. It feels like if I eat this core, it will be highly beneficial for my body. Could it be that the fight between these two zombies was to compete for the core in their heads? After eating the white core, the large zombie suddenly beat his chest with his hands and roared fiercely. Some nearby common zombies, upon hearing this sound, approached, but then all began to back away. It seems they instinctively feared this robust-bodied zombie. Although I don't know what this white core is, seeing this scene makes me completely certain that it must be beneficial for the zombies. Perhaps this core can enhance the abilities acquired by zombies as they evolve. If I could eat the core of this large zombie, maybe I could control more subordinate zombies. My mental control power is still not very strong. My limit is controlling only these two zombies. If I engaged in direct combat, I wouldn't stand a chance of winning. For now, I can only rely on cunning. However, I must not act recklessly. The plan to obtain the core must be executed with caution. After all, I want to become stronger so that Kiki can grow up safely in this world. But if I make a mistake and die at the hands of the large zombie, then, if I die, little Kiki will have no one to take care of her. I can't let that happen. Meanwhile, Irui, who was lying on the bed, also heard the loud noise coming from outside. Although, due to her current body, she couldn't see what was happening downstairs. After her reincarnation, she could more or less guess what was going on. After the night of the blood moon, the entire world went through an evolutionary outbreak. Not only did humans awaken special abilities, but among the zombies, many powerful entities were also born. Even the other animals that survived the outbreak began to transform into fierce beasts. After the blood moon, zombies and fierce beasts began fighting each other to continue evolving and devouring one another. Surviving humans not only fled in terror when facing zombies, but after the red moon, they already had the ability to fight them. At the same time, humans began hunting zombies and ferocious beasts to obtain their cores, and thus investigate and develop a drug based on the extraordinary human gene so they could continue strengthening themselves. However, this extraordinary genetic enhancement drug was merely a product of the early phases after the global anomaly of the red moon. When Uwe was reincarnated in her previous life, humans had already researched and used much more powerful cultivation methods. Based on these methods, humans could refine themselves and become more efficient in obtaining power to strengthen themselves. And Irui, as the supreme empress among humans in her past life, cultivated the most advanced art, the crystal breathing technique. In her past life, Irui endured a long and arduous struggle. Relying on her innate and extraordinary talent, in a sea of blood and mountains of corpses, she killed countless times to survive. Then, with this powerful cultivation technique, she step by step ascended to the rank of empress. Now, the wave of evolution has already begun. Irui is fully aware in her heart that with her father's strength, a low-level zombie will find it nearly impossible to survive in this increasingly cruel world. She knows she must strengthen her power quickly. Irui knows that. As their flesh grew stronger, their body also became more refined, especially because Yeru Shu, being a baby, had very weak mental power. However, with the help of these energies and under this enhancement, her mental strength continued to increase steadily. When I returned to the room from downstairs, Yerushu was still immersed in her practice. I didn't know what she was practicing, but I saw little Kiki lying on the bed, trembling. At that moment, I felt great concern. Could she have caught a cold during the night? A baby getting sick is a huge problem. I quickly took a blanket from the side and gently covered her. In the previous world, if a baby got sick, I could take them to the hospital for treatment. But now, in this apocalypse, where are the children's hospitals? There are only bloodthirsty zombies. I felt a movement coming from her body. Yiru Shu was awakened from her meditation. When she opened her eyes, she saw the blanket covering her and her zombie father looking worried beside her. A small smile appeared on Yiru Shu's face, and a warm feeling filled her heart. In her past life, Yiru Shu grew up in an orphanage. From a young age, she learned to be independent and strong. She finished university thanks to scholarships and subsidies. Now, after being reborn, the parents she was born to were eliminated when the apocalypse broke out. It was the first time Yiru Shu felt the warmth of paternal love, even though the other was a zombie. Seeing that little Kiki was fine, I relaxed. But outside, that big zombie was still right in front of me. I needed to find a way to eliminate him. Otherwise, living near such a threat made me feel uneasy. Who knows how much stronger this guy will become? So I decided to act first. At nightfall, in the dark store ahead, occasional zombie growls could be heard. The wandering zombies instinctively moved away upon hearing the noise, as if they feared something terrifying inside the store. The large zombie I had seen before had grown even stronger compared to the day. His height, which was previously close to 2 meters, had now risen to about 2.5 meters. His shoulders had also become even broader. As this zombie continued to absorb the energy from the core, suddenly, a loud noise was heard at the store entrance. Interrupted by the noise, the large zombie immediately became filled with rage, pounded his chest with his fists, and rushed out. On the empty street, I saw a low-level zombie standing there, growling at the tank zombie. Looking closely at this low-level zombie, one could see that its red pupils were completely vacant. The tank zombie pounded his chest hard and let out an extremely loud roar. His voice was much louder than that of the low-level zombie. Even I, hiding in the shadows, couldn't help but feel a chill. Wow, This type of zombie really has a powerful presence. Fortunately, I had already prepared in advance. I controlled the low-level zombie with my mind, making it pick up a flower pot from the street and throw it hard, hitting the large zombie's head. Taking advantage of the tank zombie's delayed reaction, I controlled the zombie to turn around and run. The tank zombie roared, lifting his head, fury burning in his eyes. He immediately began chasing my controlled zombie. Zombie number 1 quickly lured this giant into a distant store, where I had already set a trap. Previously, in this place, 2 gas canisters had been left open, and the store was filled with the smell of leaked gas. The controlled zombie had just entered the store when the enormous tank zombie burst inside. Its powerful fist instantly crushed my zombie. I quickly controlled zombie number 2 to enter the store and forcibly shut the door, which had already bent. Then I took out a lighter. With the loud sound of an explosion, the tank zombie let out harrowing screams in the sea of fire. As it struggled to escape from the store, it fell head first against the door. Several minutes passed, and even though the tank zombie had been burned by the fire, it didn't move. Once I confirmed that it was truly dead, I cautiously approached. Without saying a word, I raised my blade and severed the zombie's head. The blade struck forcefully, splitting its skull in two, and I indeed found a special core inside its brain. However, this core was not the same as the one I had seen during the day. It was no longer a pure white. It now had a reddish tint. I realized that this core attracted me in an irresistible way, even more strongly than the previous time. It was possible that red. If all these cores turn red, wouldn't they become much stronger? I quickly stored the core and then chose 2 healthy zombies wandering nearby, converting them into my subordinates. After reconnecting the 2 zombies, I quickly returned to the neighborhood and assigned them the task of guarding the entrance. I went up alone to the 3rd floor, confirmed that everything was safe, and directly swallowed the core. The moment I did so, I felt the core dissolve inside my body. An immense power flooded my limbs, continuously refining my body. My skin, which was slightly withered, began to transform more into a human-like form. My strength, agility, and endurance improved slightly compared to before. The massive power flowed into my brain, and upon experiencing the core's evolution, I couldn't help but let out a roar of rage. The zombies wandering below trembled involuntarily upon hearing my roar and then slowly began to move away. After the evolution, I felt my mind extremely clear. My senses also seemed much sharper than before. Most importantly, controlling zombies was now much easier. Excited, I ran to the street to test things out and discovered that my mental power had drastically increased. Now I can control 5 zombies at the same time. The most incredible thing is that I acquired a new ability. I can share the vision of controlled zombies. Now I have total remote control. With this ability, I no longer need to leave home to do whatever I want. I just need to command my subordinates to do it for me. Now that I don't have to show myself, it will be much easier to kill, steal, and plunder. At that moment, Ushu was lying on the bed, a little restless. It's already so late. Why hasn't my zombie dad come back yet? She had heard the loud explosion at the store earlier, as well as the terrifying evolved zombies. The roar of the tank-type zombie at night was intimidating. Although Irui was the reborn empress, in her current baby form, she could not face an evolved zombie with advanced combat strength. Now that I'm on the 6th floor, I don't have to worry too much about being discovered, but I'm anxious about my zombie dad, who hasn't evolved yet. A normal, unevolved zombie has only one fate when facing an evolved zombie: death. Zombie dad, please don't let anything happen to you. I still can't walk. If something happens to you, I'm done for. Irui began to doubt. Is my luck really this bad? It seems that both in my past life and in this one, I've had bad luck with my parents. Now, after so long, I finally have a zombie dad. But he has already died once. And just now that I started to feel the warmth of paternal love, am I destined to start over from scratch again? Originally, Shui was cultivating crystal breathing, but now her mind could only think about him. Anxious, she couldn't focus on her cultivation. Without realizing it, these two, father and daughter who met by chance, had already become essential companions to survive in this apocalyptic world. At that moment, the sound of a door opening was heard, and Ushu sighed in relief. A low-level zombie doesn't know how to open locks. Only my zombie dad, who retains human consciousness, can do something so surprising. That's good. That's good. The important thing is that nothing happened. A slight smile appeared on Ui's face. I entered and saw the little one smiling. Her adorable expression warmed my heart. I went straight to the kitchen to prepare the powdered milk. Even though we're in the apocalypse, I feel that my life is becoming more and more hopeful. Little Kiki, be good. Daddy got stronger. Now I can protect you better so you can survive this apocalypse. In the following 2 days after my power increased, I didn't leave Tower C. Instead, I used my mental power to send my subordinates to search for supplies in the surroundings, skipping over multiple zombies at once. Everything became much faster than moving things alone. Now, I have transformed several floors below into my own warehouse, gathering all the supplies Shui might need now or in the future. I even collected various tools to face the zombies. After witnessing the fierce battle of the evolved zombies, I realized that perhaps after that Red Moon night, to live better, I must improve my combat skills and also prepare proper defenses. Using mental control, I brought in some gas cylinders, gathered the fire axes locked in each building. I can light fires to make Molotov cocktails. I even collected iron levers, shovels, and kitchen knives, taking everything that could be useful. During this time, whether taking care of Shui or training my combat skills in an empty room, my life had become almost a daily routine, but I felt that it was a very fulfilling life. Meanwhile, Jusu lay in bed, only drinking milk or practicing crystal breathing. Her body was still too weak. Now, her body is too weak. Jusu must improve her power through breathing. After completing her, Jusu practiced and exhaled slowly. After some time of training, his mental power had improved a little. Upon hearing some vague noises in the room, Jusu slightly furrowed his brows. He didn't know if his zombie dad had retained the consciousness of his previous life. That's why, the night before, he went out to gather supplies. But now it had already been 2 days since he last went out. Recalling the battle between evolved zombies some days ago and the strange sounds of explosions and terrifying zombie screams near the complex, Jusu supposed that his zombie dad had probably been unlucky and encountered those evolved zombies with special abilities. Jiru Shui could imagine that, as a common low-level zombie, his zombie dad probably felt very scared. Now, he could not only be killed by human survivors, but also by his own fellow zombies, and even by wild beasts that had become stronger. As a low-level zombie destined to be cannon fodder, surviving in the apocalypse was already very difficult, and he still had to divide his energy to sustain himself, take care of his food, his life, and his safety. This was truly a heavy burden for him. Jiru Shui felt very moved. Despite the difficult circumstances, his dad didn't seem to have any intention of giving up. One must remember that in this apocalypse, life had become extremely valuable. Life was now a precious existence. Jusu calmly looked at the night sky through the window, his bright eyes revealing an unusual calmness and serenity for his age. It seems that I must also accelerate my training. As time passes, there will be more and more evolved zombies and wild beasts. With my zombie dad's abilities, it will become increasingly difficult to survive in this apocalypse. After so many days of training, Jusu had already achieved certain advancements. The intensity of his mental power had increased considerably compared to before. At that moment, under the control of his mental power, the silver needle on the bedside table quickly flew through the air. The silver needle moved at an extremely frightening speed. With his ability to control time, Jiru Shui was certain that he could kill without anyone noticing, even with such a fine silver needle. With the help of his mental power, he could pierce a skull. However, Jusu was not satisfied with that. To survive in this apocalypse, these methods were far from sufficient. I must become stronger to have hope of surviving. In the room, he was focused on reading a martial arts book. According to what the book said, he continued training while exploring the room. After learning some basic combat concepts and practicing for a while, he prepared himself and went up to the 6th floor. He made a zombie enter the room under his control, then released the mental control and used the zombie as a training partner. He continuously applied the various combat techniques he had learned over time to the zombie's body. The zombie knows martial arts, and no one can stop him. It was a constant improvement. His punching speed increased more and more, and the precision of his strikes became even greater. Looking at the zombie in front of him, already completely destroyed and covered in blood, he felt satisfied. Then he activated his mental power and prepared another zombie to increase the difficulty. But suddenly, something caught his attention. A rather surprising image appeared in his mind. He discovered that the 2 zombies he had sent to gather supplies in building number 1 of the Sunshine Complex had found something very surprising. He saw that on the 3rd floor of building number 1, 2 zombies were searching for supplies in a very human-like manner. But at that moment, within his field of vision, a bloody figure flew across the ceiling. Its speed was terrifying. He immediately controlled the zombies to follow it. The bloody figure kept running along the walls and ceiling. Not even the zombies he controlled could keep up with its speed. Perhaps upon seeing the strange movements of the zombies before it, the figure on the ceiling stopped and remained motionless. Finally, he could clearly see the bloody figure on the ceiling. What surprised him was the appearance of this monster. He never imagined that such an ugly zombie could exist in this world. This bloody figure seemed to have completely abandoned its human form. Through the zombies' bodies, he could feel a strong sense of fear. Clearly, this bloody monster represented a great threat to common zombies. He immediately controlled the 2 zombies and made them strike forward with sticks. However, the terrifying figure on the ceiling leaped forward with great force and instantly tore off a zombie's head with its claws. The other zombie, without time to react, saw a bloody line swiftly cut across its skull. The agility of this bloody monster was impressive. Not even the 2 zombies he controlled could do anything and were eliminated in an instant. What the hell is this monster? And what was it that killed my zombies? Could its tongue be that long? He never expected that this zombie had not only lost its form, human, but also used her weak tongue to attack. Bloody shot. And my zombies couldn't react in time. At that moment, I became very worried. It seems that the evolved abilities of the zombies greatly exceeded my expectations. From now on, I can't waste time. I need to continue practicing martial arts every day, fighting directly against the zombies to continuously improve my combat skills. Using this simple method, I seek to achieve the greatest possible improvement. After these days of experiments, I discovered that the nuclear crystal is probably only formed in the brains of evolved zombies. In recent days, I have killed several common zombies, but found nothing in their brains. Time passed quickly. A week went by in the blink of an eye. Now I am facing 3 large zombies attacking me at the same time. Dodging their bites with ease, using my agile movements, I seize the opportunity and deliver a direct blow to their jaws. In an instant, the 3 terrifying zombies are lying on the ground, motionless, at the center of the room. Feeling satisfied, I reflect. These zombies I encountered were relatively strong, but even so, I killed them easily. Now I am very confident. I can go out, face zombie attacks, and still maintain a good defensive capacity. In the room, little Juhui, like a baby, did not neglect his training. While Juhui concentrated his mental power and applied it to his body, his small frame began to react. In fact, he began to float slowly. Although his body has not grown much faster, his mental power has increased considerably. After a period of immersion in training, Jusu's mental power now allows him to levitate a few centimeters off the ground. But this is still not enough. This is still not enough. Being just a baby, he can already lift his own body. Jusu's feat at this moment is truly terrifying. However, he does not show a single sign of not enough. Jirusue understood that from now on, there would be more and more evolved zombies and ferocious beasts. These types would face each other in increasingly frequent wars. If he wanted to survive in this city full of the undead, he would need to have enough strength for it. The most important thing was that Jusu knew he was not in a condition to protect his zombie dad. After the blood moon, there was no significant mutation. Clearly, His father was still a common zombie. In this post-apocalyptic world, low-level zombies are the most unfortunate. When encountering evolved zombies, they could be easily eliminated. If they met an extraordinary human, they could also be defeated. Without sufficient power, it was very likely that Zombie Dad would not survive much longer. Below, there was the constant noise of banging. What was his Zombie Dad doing all day? Even with a separating layer, the sound of zombies training in combat in the living room still reached Jiru Sui's ears. However, what worried Jiru was that his Zombie Dad hadn't gone out to search for resources for more than a week. With what was still left in the house, there was no problem for now, but sooner or later, it would run out. Jiru understood this perfectly. After all, his Zombie Dad was just a common zombie, and given the enormous power difference, he had no way of facing the evolved zombies outside. He had no chance at all. It wasn't his Zombie Dad's fault. If anyone was to blame, it was this cruel world. Jiru only hoped to be able to improve his strength quickly through the breathing technique. He wanted to grow up quickly, like the human empress. Jiru didn't like feeling like a burden to others, and also hoped to be able to protect his Zombie Dad's life with his own strength. The most important thing for Jiru was not to lose this valuable family bond, even if the family bond he had was with a zombie. Jiru continued following the breathing technique, absorbing energy factors. Meanwhile, he controlled silver needles that moved through the air, constantly piercing. As the technique continued to function, his expression became more and more determined. Just as he was preparing to go upstairs and feed Kiki, the zombies searching for resources outside made a new discovery. He saw, on a nearby street, a zombie with a slightly weakened body but with clearly evolved claws and significantly increased speed, chasing a human who was fleeing in terror. He recognized it instantly. This agile zombie chasing the survivor was the same one he had seen days before, the one that had been crushed by a giant. Before the survivor could react, the agile zombie sank its claws into him, ending his life. What an opportunity. His eyes shone immediately. He sent a zombie to follow and watch it. Ever since he devoured the crystalline core and experienced that overwhelming surge of energy, he couldn't resist the desire to become stronger. He left a zombie at a fixed distance, closely observing the agile zombie. The other 4 zombies abandoned their original tasks, grabbed heavy and sharp firefighter axes, and quickly advanced toward the location where the agile zombie was. The 4 zombies, holding long axes in their hands, advanced with firm and synchronized steps. It looked like a group of lumberjacks marching through the streets. The scene was truly bizarre. If survivors saw this, they would probably be left speechless. After all, they had never seen zombies actively using weapons before. This would be like defying the heavens. Soon, the 5 zombies gathered, 5 common zombies, each with an axe, ready. All ready for action, all with fierce expressions and blood-red eyes. At this moment, they were prepared to attack. I did not act impulsively, but instead organized the 5 zombies to walk as if they did not care, heading toward the agile zombie. I made the zombies spread out a little from one another. After all, 5 zombies with axes gathered together would attract too much attention. Moreover, carrying axes would make fighting difficult if they were too close. But I was not foolish enough to disperse them too much. If the zombies spread out too far, they might not be able to get close before being noticed by the enemy. One after another, they were taken down. That agile zombie had gone many days without eating fresh human flesh. At that moment, the smell of blood was like a rare delicacy to him. The zombie devoured the flesh without concern. Some other nearby zombies, having heard the noise, instinctively approached. In the face of these low-level zombies, the agile zombie roared several times. His presence was so powerful that many zombies were frightened and did not dare to approach. Only then, satisfied, did he continue enjoying his meal. But at that moment, the zombie heard footsteps approaching again. He saw 5 common zombies who, as if they did not fear death, ignored him. His warning was disregarded, and they continued walking toward him. The agile zombie roared again, irritated, and his tone seemed full of impatience. However, what he did not expect was that those 5 low-level zombies, without saying a word, would run directly at him. "Let's go!" Kill him! I quickly controlled the 5 zombies, who advanced toward the agile zombie. Earlier, I had made them simulate low-level zombies, wandering aimlessly toward the target. After all, the agile zombie was very fast and had claws capable of tearing apart a car. If I was not careful, I feared the zombies could be easily eliminated. So, when the 2 sides were only 10 meters apart, I launched the attack. The 5 zombies I controlled were strong, robust adults, all male. In an instant, they reached the agile zombie, their axes gleaming, and without hesitation, they attacked immediately. Seeing that 5 low-level zombies dared to attack him, immense fury flashed in the agile zombie's eyes. His body moved instantly. However, being at a disadvantage in hand-to-hand combat, in the very first clash, the agile zombie suffered an injury. Although his speed allowed him to dodge most attacks, I was already prepared. I had set up a semi-ambush. Unless he retreated and fled, he was doomed to suffer injuries. His right arm and back were cut in the first strike. One of the zombies attacked between his ribs under my control. 2 zombies attacked from the front. The agile zombie had great strength. With his claws, he pushed the 2 zombies back a few steps. However, the other 2 zombies did not hesitate and attacked immediately, cutting off large chunks of flesh. Even so, the agile zombie suffered serious injuries. Furious, the agile zombie exploded in speed. With one strike of his claws, he crushed the head of one of the zombies. But the remaining 3 zombies arrived quickly. The agile zombie was fast, but he could not avoid the axes falling upon him. 3 blows struck his body, and one of them severed his head. No matter how skilled you are, you cannot win against a kitchen knife. Besides, I had 5 axes. Seeing the agile zombie fall, I felt relieved. This evolved zombie was truly strong. If it weren't for my control behind the scenes, it was likely that these 5 low-level zombies would have been eliminated in 2 rounds. Now only 2 were lost. I picked up the crystalline core and put it in my pocket. Then, I quickly ran to the 6th floor. When I saw the crystalline core, I was very, very pleased. This crystalline core was the same as the one I had devoured earlier, white with a hint of red. That meant that the agile zombie I had just defeated was not only an evolved zombie, but had also devoured a crystalline core. No wonder the agile zombie moved so fast. He had already undergone an evolution. With that in mind, I calmed my excitement and swallowed the crystalline core. Powerful energy began coursing through my entire body. It was the same sensation I had experienced before. I recorded the process of the energy increasing in my mind. After a moment, I felt total clarity. A sense of lucidity once again flooded my brain, and a faint smile appeared on my face. My power had increased, especially in my arms, which were now as hard as steel. Even the agile zombie's attacks, capable of tearing apart cars, could no longer penetrate my arms. Quickly, I picked up the machete, steel at my side, and I began to swing it. At that moment, the gleam of the blades illuminated the room, and the sound of the air being sliced was fierce. A glint of excitement passed through my eyes. As expected, devouring the crystalline core greatly enhances speed. My close combat power increased tremendously. Now my mental strength was enough to control 10 zombies. Moreover, the maximum control distance had reached 3,000 meters. Excited, Lu Xuan quickly ran downward. Among the nearby zombies, I chose 10 strong and healthy ones with good legs. They would be my zombie squad. I equipped each of them with a sharp firefighter's axe. At that moment, those zombies, all around 1.80 meters tall, stood lined up before me, each carrying an axe on their shoulder. Their presence was incredibly intimidating. Looking at my zombie squad, I felt satisfied. It seems the zombie gang is starting to take shape. Being strong is good. In a one-on-one fight, maybe I'm no match for those evolved combat zombies. But in this world, only 3 things keep you standing: brutality, mental power, and more zombies. In this apocalyptic world, what matters is power. Who will fight against you if their brain hasn't evolved, only their muscles? Who will engage in direct combat? I follow a mass strategy. What I use is the tactic of crowds. Looking at my increasingly strong troops, the confidence in my heart grew even more. I turned toward building number 1, not far away. A look of cold, murderous intent crossed my eyes. In that building, there is an incredibly terrifying creature. It is completely different from all the zombies I've seen before. I don't even know if I should call it a zombie. As a member of the zombie species, I really don't want to admit that I belong to the same species as that creature. Controlling my zombies, I felt death firsthand. The bloody image of that creature left an utterly terrifying impact on me, especially after facing the agile zombie directly. Compared to that, this blood-stained creature makes me feel even more fear. Even an agile zombie that has undergone 2 evolutions couldn't resist my army tactic. But that blood-stained figure, its speed is even greater than the agile zombies. Its attack is much more ferocious. What worries me the most is that it has a tongue that can be used as a secret weapon. It's nearly impossible to avoid. 2 zombies were eliminated in an instant. I'm not sure if 10 zombies can defeat it. After thinking about it, I still shook my head. With my current strength, it's very difficult to guarantee victory. With this ticking time bomb around, I can't even sleep peacefully. When I returned to the 7th floor, I prepared the milk in time. I grabbed a spoon to feed Xiaoqi little by little. The little one seems to have an increasing appetite. The milk it drinks is very tasty and sweet. Even in this apocalypse, Xiaoqi hasn't lost its appetite. After feeding Xiaoqi, I picked up the toys I had looted. Jiruzu looked at his clumsy zombie father awkwardly handling the toys. For a moment, he felt completely bewildered, even though he outwardly looked like a baby. Clumsily playing with the toy for a moment, she felt completely bewildered. Although she looked like a baby on the outside, inside, she was a mature empress, cold and resolute in battle. How could something as simple as a toy interest her? However, it was a gesture of affection from her zombie father. Even though Jirusu had long outgrown the stage of playing with toys, she felt a warmth inside her. After all, in both her past life and this one, she had never experienced such affection. Watching her zombie father struggling and suffering, Yus, even with her serious expression, managed to form a timid smile. And when I saw Sia Oiki showing no expression at all, I felt somewhat frustrated. After all, not only had I never been in a romantic relationship, but I also didn't know how to handle these kinds of situations. I had neither been in love nor taken care of a child before. I could only use some methods I had learned from TV dramas. I thought I had failed, but to my surprise, the little one actually smiled. That made me feel relieved. Then I tried even harder to make Jirusu laugh. Jirusu couldn't help but have her eyelids tremble. Being too kind is not always a good thing. Well, I considered it training for my mental strength. After playing with the little one for a while, I felt satisfied. I then walked toward the window, forming a cold smile. I'm almost ready. It's time to investigate that guy a little more. I selected a few wandering zombies to form my team. After a careful selection, I completed my squad with 10 zombies. Each one was tall, robust, and had intact limbs. They hadn't been bitten by other zombies. That bloody creature left such a strong impression on me last time. The 2 zombies barely put up a fight and were eliminated instantly. The huge difference in combat power prevents me from underestimating the enemy. Looking at these 10 strong zombies wielding firefighter axes, I nodded in satisfaction. These 10 zombies lined up really exerted great pressure. I think that even if we encounter large zombies, with these at my front, I still feel like something is missing. After thinking about it, I slapped my forehead. I had only equipped them with weapons, but at the very least I should prepare some armor for them. I remember that at the street corner there's an electric bicycle shop that also sells helmets. I then took my zombies and broke into the store. Afterward, I placed a fully enclosed motorcycle helmet on each zombie. Seeing my zombie squad now with their new look, I felt very satisfied. These 10 zombies, with completely enclosed black helmets and firefighter axes, formed a line. Their presence was so intimidating that anyone might mistake them for a gang of bikers returning. After returning with my zombie squad, We marched toward building number 1. I want to see if this creature can stop my zombie army. I'm still in building number 5, controlling my zombie squad. As we entered the large building, they started from the first floor, searching room by room. They quickly checked the 4th floor, and in no time, they finished searching it, but still found no trace of the bloodthirsty creature. They covered 4 floors without spotting the creature. Could it have escaped early? Soon, Uo's team reached the 5th floor and continued searching cautiously. However, Shiru's team didn't realize that, at that very moment, above the door of the room they were entering, a bloodthirsty creature with knife-like sharp claws was clinging to the wall like a spider. It lurked silently on the ceiling, observing Uo's group with a savage gaze. The position of this bloodthirsty creature was extremely difficult to detect. It was right in the blind spot of Uo's team's vision. Where could this creature have gone? Could it have escaped from the building? I began to worry. This bloodthirsty creature is very hard to deal with. If it leaves the building and hides in the shadows, the danger would increase significantly. It would definitely be a first-class assassin. At that moment, a sharp sound sliced through the air. A bloody figure suddenly dropped from above. The bloodthirsty creature attacked swiftly. The zombie closest to the door took a fatal blow. Its body was thrown backwards, slamming hard into the ground. Fortunately, I had taken precautions and provided the zombies with full helmets. The motorcycle helmet was almost completely torn apart, and the zombie's head was nearly crushed. But thankfully, the helmet offered some protection. The zombie wasn't completely dead. It could still fight. I reacted quickly, immediately controlling the group of zombies. They turned their bodies and swung their firefighter axes, attacking the bloodthirsty creature. I saw that this creature seemed enraged by Uo's team intruding into its territory. Despite the zombies' attacks, it paid them no attention at all and continued assaulting Uo's team without stopping. Seeing this, a cold smile formed on my lips. Zombies are just zombies. No matter how much they evolve, if they don't evolve their brains, they're still useless. The bloodthirsty creature moved swiftly among the zombies, its terrifying claws slashing rapidly. Several zombies were sent flying into the air. However, these zombies kept. As long as they were under my control and their brains weren't crushed, they would continue to attack. Even if their bodies were pierced, the hatchets continued to cut straight towards the head. With a single claw, the bloodthirsty creature pierced through the body of a zombie. However, I still controlled the zombies without hesitation. I used them to tightly grab the bloodthirsty creature's claws. Without saying a word, I struck its head with the hatchet. Several zombies also began to attack, swinging their firefighters' hatchets. They kept swinging their blades, pieces of flesh, without causing serious injuries immediately. I controlled 3 zombies and ordered them to attack a single point. With the last blow of the hatchet, they finally cut off one of the bloodthirsty creature's arms. After losing an arm, the creature finally understood how powerful this small team of zombies was. It leaped out of the circle of zombies and climbed onto the roof. Immediately, I controlled the zombies and ordered them to throw their firefighter axes toward the rooftop. The creature reacted quickly, dodged the axe, and shattered the window glass before escaping. My pupils contracted. Through the zombie's vision, I saw the bloodthirsty creature climbing the building's wall as if walking on solid ground. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared. Damn it, that bastard got away. Seeing it vanish outside the window, I couldn't help but mutter a curse under my breath. If we hadn't managed to eliminate it this time, it was highly likely the creature would become even more cautious. It might even seek revenge. Its strength in its limbs was terrifying. It could easily cling to anything and attack at any moment. This was the most difficult zombie mutation I had ever encountered. Letting this creature escape was like having a ticking time bomb. If it had fled the area entirely, it wouldn't have been so bad. What worried me was the possibility that it was still lurking nearby, posing a great threat to me. What unsettled me the most now was the chance that this bloodthirsty creature could reach the 5th floor without me noticing. After all, it didn't need to use the stairs. Even though I had positioned zombies to block the corridor, it would be useless. If it discovered me, it could simply scale the outer wall, and I wouldn't be able to stop it. However, I had no choice now. Who could have imagined that, by underestimating its power, I would let it slip through my fingers? But it's never too late to fix a mistake. I quickly regained my composure and began drafting a defense plan. Immediately, I assigned 3 strong zombies to patrol the 5th floor, fully armed. That way, if the creature infiltrated unnoticed, I could detect it in time and avoid being caught off guard. Observing the marks left by the zombie on the wall, I couldn't help but be surprised. Such a powerful creature. The energy contained in its core was probably far greater than that of the large zombies I had encountered before. If I could devour this zombie's crystalline core, my power would undoubtedly increase, and I could reach another level. In a room on the 7th floor, Irusu had made great progress in her psychic ability. Now she controlled 2 rag dolls that floated incessantly through the air. Originally, Yukshu, like an empress, wouldn't lower herself to play with such toys. But in trying not to hurt Onion, she discovered that controlling the dolls was not only fun, but also helped strengthen her psychic power. Suddenly, she started enjoying it. Noticing my arrival outside the door, Yukshu quickly interrupted her psychic concentration and hugged the rag dolls to her chest. When I entered, I saw her hugging a doll, playing happily. Seeing this small, pure, and enchanting creature, I felt my own state of mind calm. Little one, this world is too dark and broken. I hope that when you grow up, you won't be disappointed in it. I hope you can always grow up like this, without worries or sadness. I hope that both of us can survive this apocalypse. Looking at the little creature before me, I felt that whatever I did now had meaning. Even if chaos raged outside, this room was the last pure sanctuary. Looking out the window, my expression grew serious, and I quickly left. Irusu watched her zombie dad in confusion. In recent days, he had barely gone out to search for supplies and stayed home all the time. Now, he was going in and out of the room with a worried expression. Had something happened outside? Then Yushu saw her zombie dad returning quickly with a pile of wooden planks and nails. Soon after, he began nailing the boards one by one to the window. The bloodthirsty creature defied all logic. It was completely different from normal zombies. Although it couldn't walk upright, it could scale and run along walls impressively. Even the building's walls seemed like solid ground to it. The 7th floor, which had once been very safe, no longer was. Even though I had stationed zombies to patrol the corridor for security, this creature didn't follow normal paths. If it climbed through the bedroom window, it would be completely impossible to stop it. I couldn't monitor the window at all times, so the only thing I could do was seal it with wood. This way, at least I wouldn't be caught off guard. At the very least, I could partially guarantee Irusu's safety. Lying in bed, Irusu watched the scene before her with slight confusion. Her zombie dad had stayed home for several days without leaving. But today, he suddenly decided to seal the window. Seeing her zombie dad so focused, Irusu raised an eyebrow slightly. Did he sense the power of the evolved zombies? Is he so scared that he wants to hide from the chaos outside? She thought for a moment, and concluded that this was the only possibility. After all, who in their right mind would seal a window? But it didn't seem like he was so scared that he would actually do it. Irusu shook his head, somewhat resigned. My zombie dad really is a coward. Looking at his zombie dad as he examined the wooden planks, Uksho felt something different. Even though he was a zombie, he had already surpassed most people in this apocalypse. But for Irui, both in his past life and this one, it was the first time he had felt such deep paternal love. Zombie dad, wait for me. It won't take long. Soon you won't have to worry so much anymore. Just give me time to grow and I will be the one to protect you. Looking at the bedroom window, I felt satisfied. The bloodthirsty creature was undoubtedly very powerful, but even if it tried to break through the glass and wooden planks, it would take time and effort. It slaughtered zombies as if they were nothing. But in terms of strength, it was much weaker than the great zombies. At the very least, the window's protection would buy me time to react. 3 days passed quickly. I ordered the zombies to continue patrolling the area, but since the bloodthirsty creature had disappeared, it had not reappeared. Not seeing that terrifying figure gave me a sense of relief. However, I did not let my guard down completely. I continued organizing 2 zombies to constantly patrol the 5th floor. After all, zombies don't need to eat, drink, or rest, and I don't have to pay them a salary. Suddenly, I felt a wave of mental energy in my head. One of the zombies searching for supplies had made a new discovery. The zombie turned around, and they were all stunned. That is a zombie? The few who had just stepped outside were frightened to see the zombies I controlled. Their eyes were full of terror. I was also a little startled by them. I hadn't expected there to be survivors nearby and didn't want to cause more trouble. I prepared to make the zombies move away from the store. Look at how scared they are. It's just a zombie. What's there to fear? One of the men, somewhat muscular, picked up an iron bar and charged at the zombie. I shook my head, resigned. I didn't want to cause more trouble, but now I had no choice but to control the zombies to use the firefighter's axe against him. The axe and the iron bar clashed. The confrontation surprised me. The zombie I had chosen was relatively strong, and zombies' strength is usually greater than that of ordinary humans. But I hadn't expected this man to be so strong. The tremendous force of the iron bar made the zombie's arms go numb. It couldn't even hold on to the axe. The bar struck it and sent it flying. This man did not hesitate for a second. His attack was extremely fast. Before I could react, the iron bar was already coming down toward my head. The zombie's head exploded like a watermelon. The man approached the zombie's body and looked thoughtfully at the firefighter's axe that had been thrown. This world is truly absurd. Now even zombies use weapons? Could this be a new class of evolved zombies? I can't believe that after so long, there are still survivors here on the 5th floor. I frowned as I recalled what had happened. I couldn't help but be surprised. Although the man seemed strong, he shouldn't have had that level of power. I started to suspect, could other creatures have undergone the same changes? Forget it. Looks like I can't send zombies to that area anymore in the future. On the 7th floor, Irusu was struggling to train by crawling on the bed. After a period of training with the Lioli breathing method, Irui's strength had far surpassed that of an ordinary baby. As Irui improved his control over his body, his speed at crawling on the bed increased. Finally, he tried using his psychic power to balance his body. With the support of his psychic ability, he slowly began transitioning from crawling to walking upright. Just then, I entered through the door. Seeing that scene on the bed, I was so shocked that my jaw nearly dropped. I even wondered if I was hallucinating. Zal, who is only a few months old, is already walking upright on the bed. I didn't even know when he learned to crawl. An 8-month-old baby could already say daddy. Besides that, he could eat by himself. I was completely stunned. This baby is prodigious. What I didn't know was that the baby I had adopted was actually a reincarnated human empress. After undergoing the purification of the blood moon, all humans and the undead evolved. I gained the ability to control the undead. Not only can I sing, dance, and rap, but I can also make them play basketball. Jiru Shui, just as in her past life, awakened the power of time and also telekinesis. When I returned home after gathering supplies, I realized that Yui could already walk. Although at first he was a little unsteady, he quickly mastered his balance. Seeing my astonished expression, Jiru Shui felt a little proud. If it weren't for the fear of scaring her undead daddy, she might have even done a somersault. Seeing the little one adapt so quickly to walking for the first time made me feel deeply comforted. My daughter has the talent to be a great empress. However, after a brief practice, Jiru Shui stopped. After all, with her current physical condition, it would be difficult to rely solely on her own strength. Even so, for her, just standing on her own was already very difficult. I placed the little one on the couch to rest and went to the balcony to practice with the knife. Although my body had undergone some evolution after consuming the crystalline core, I could still only rely on a few memories of my past lives regarding martial arts. By imitating simple movements with the machete, the sound of air being sliced by the blade soon caught Jusu's attention. Undead daddy, are you improving your strength now? Jiru Shui was already convinced that her undead daddy was just an ordinary undead, and, although he had gone through the blood moon, he hadn't awakened any extraordinary abilities. The only advantage was that her daddy had human consciousness. At that moment, in Juhui's eyes, the knife style I was practicing, despite looking impressive and intimidating, was full of flaws and absolutely useless. When I noticed that the little one was watching me intently, I felt a bit proud and gripped the knife more firmly. I didn't expect him to be interested in something so violent. It seems I should keep practicing. When the little one grows up, I will teach him this knife style. In the following days, I practiced hand-to-hand combat and knife techniques on the balcony, while Jusu trained to walk upright in the living room. I was also training my ability to control telekinesis. As the end of the world progressed, Jusu began to feel a slight sense of crisis. After all, after the blood moon mutation, the whole world started to be in danger, and now this was just the beginning. The more it advanced, the more terrifying these transformations would become. Moreover, many other creatures had also joined the army of evolution. To Juhui, who saw her undead daddy merely as a common scapegoat, there would soon be no room for him to survive. She knew very well that she needed to grow quickly in this increasingly cruel world. An ordinary undead with no evolution, and a baby who still couldn't move freely. To Juhui, this was like an apocalyptic beginning. As an empress, she knew that if she wanted to change the course of this situation, there was only one way: accelerate her training progress. At that moment, an enraged roar echoed from outside the building. I quickly controlled the undead to go to the location, but to my surprise, one of the undead I had killed before had not only revived, but also evolved. Now it was fighting against another terrifying undead. They were probably battling over crystalline cores. Thinking about them, I felt a burning sensation in my chest. As the saying goes, fortune lies in danger. In this apocalyptic world, it's a fight for life or death. I had already intended to get rid of that undead, and now, finding two zombies fighting was like an opportunity falling from the sky. If I could get their crystalline cores, I would certainly achieve a great breakthrough. Thinking this, I stepped straight through the door and locked it behind me. Jiru Shuei also noticed what was happening outside. What left her perplexed was seeing her undead daddy, who had always been so useless, suddenly stepping out the door. In recent days, he hadn't even dared to leave, and now he had decided to go. The roars of the undead outside indicated that they weren't ordinary creatures. Going out now to see what was happening practically meant certain death. Jusu was completely stunned. She couldn't understand what was going on. Left alone with her undead daddy, all she could do was silently pray inside the house. This undead daddy really was a constant concern. He had spent days practicing a useless knife technique, and now he really thought he was an expert. Meanwhile, I had already gathered my group of undead, and we silently approached the two monsters in combat. After a long battle, the fight reached its climax. With a loud crash, one of the monsters fell heavily to the ground. The battle between the two evolved undead had finally ended with the victory of the bloodied monster. Just as it was preparing to take the crystalline core, I gave the immediate order. The group of undead that had already infiltrated quickly surrounded the monster and, in no time, completely tore it apart. I held the two crystalline cores in my hands and, without hesitation, swallowed them. The terrifying force of evolution coursed through my limbs and bones. My flesh, blood vessels and bones began to undergo a massive transformation under this overwhelming power. However, the process of refining two crystalline cores, one red and one white, exceeded the limits of my consciousness. Before long, this energy caused me to lose my senses. Juhui, she waited anxiously inside the room, growing increasingly impatient. The roars of the undead outside had already ceased. This probably meant that the battle was over. But her undead daddy, after leaving, still had not returned. After so much time, the worry growing inside her intensified. So much time had passed. Had something really happened? What should she do now? Evolved undead fighting, and you, a simple undead? Why do you get involved? Everything is lost. This is the end. After such a long time without any noise, Irui truly began to panic. To her, her undead daddy was probably already dead. After all, those two newly sighted undead definitely had the ability to easily destroy low-level undead. It was an apocalyptic beginning, and now it seemed that everything was ruined. I don't know how much time passed, but finally, I slowly opened my eyes. At that moment, my mind was incredibly clear. The sense of pressure from before, when I was evolving, had completely disappeared. This mental clarity was something I had never experienced before. After all, those two zombies were so powerful. Without a doubt, her undead daddy had completely fallen. Although Uchu knew that surviving in this apocalyptic world would be extremely difficult, that unevolved undead could die at any moment, in any place, she did not expect this to happen so soon. Thinking about the time she spent with her undead daddy, even though they never exchanged words, they could feel each other's moods. Although it was not like the relationship between a baby and their parents, like a human and an undead, their relationship was still warm. In this apocalyptic world where humanity barely existed anymore, two lonely souls accompanied each other. This rare experience made Uwe feel deeply happy. However, she never expected that after living two lives, the parental love she had long desired would be taken from her so quickly. To think that the one who always took care of her would never see her again. Even though Irusu had once been a legendary empress, and was already accustomed to life and death, she still felt a certain sadness. Just a little more time, and I could have grown. Maybe then I could be the one to protect you. Poor undead daddy. Why didn't you wait a little longer? Why couldn't you wait until I grew up? Just when Irusu was completely disheartened, suddenly a sound came from the door lock, and Uwe was startled at first, but quickly reacted. Her undead daddy was coming back. After all, common undead only crash against doors. They don't know how to open locks. As expected, the next second, the door opened and a familiar figure appeared in the doorway. Daddy undead. He didn't die? Seriously, I'm not hallucinating, right? How lucky she was. Irusu was incredibly emotional and ecstatic at that moment. Irui felt as if she had recovered something lost. At first, she thought that after experiencing the cruelty of the end of the world, she had already become completely indifferent. But she did not expect that. After having no news of her undead daddy, she would feel so lost and anxious. It turns out that, without realizing it, she already considered him part of her family, and not just a companion who took care of her. To speak otherwise, I could have spoken already, after all. When Yiru Shu opened her eyes, the world had already erupted into an apocalypse around her. Aside from her zombie father, who had human consciousness, there was no one else to talk to. So Yiru Shui decided to remain silent. Seeing her zombie father, who had accompanied her for so long, survive and return safe and sound, made Yiru Shu feel truly excited and happy. That feeling of having lost him and then recovered him was what thrilled her the most. In her heart, Yiru Shu had already considered the man in front of her as her family, someone she could not afford to lose in her life. Looking at little Kiki in front of me, my whole being was so excited that I couldn't stop moving. So this is the feeling of being a father. Although I had 1,001 words I wanted to express, unfortunately I am now a zombie. I no longer have the ability to speak. I don't know if I will ever recover this physiological function. At least for now, I have no hope. So I could only let out a few low grunts to express my internal emotion and excitement. I don't know if little Kiki will understand what I want to say. Ha ha ha. I am a father now, I can't believe it. In my past life, I didn't even have a girlfriend. In this life, I was reborn, became a zombie, and now I have become a father. Little Kiki is incredible. I knew my cute daughter was a genius. Before, I didn't dare to make noise in front of little Kiki, afraid that she might learn inappropriate things. But I never imagined that, being locked inside the house all day, she would be able to speak naturally. And now, not only can she walk upright, but she can also speak without a teacher. Isn't this amazing? It's a talent. Little Kiki is a prodigy, a genius baby. Papa, I don't want milk. Seeing that her zombie father was preparing powdered milk, Yiru quickly ran toward me, tugged at my clothes, babbled in her language, and as she spoke, opened her mouth, showing her 2 rows of tiny baby teeth. She had been drinking powdered milk every day, and Yiru Shu really didn't want to keep drinking it. She felt like her mouth now completely tasted like powdered milk. I stopped what I was doing. I hadn't realized that the little one had grown so fast. She already had teeth. I had no experience raising children. I never imagined that little Kiki would understand these things better than me by instinct. I scratched my head. Looking around the kitchen, I felt a bit lost. I had never raised a child. Aside from making powdered milk, I didn't know where to start. But I quickly reacted and ran up to the 6th floor. In a room on the 6th floor, I cleared some space, then ordered the zombies to bring some firewood. I took out a pot, put in mineral water and some rice, and started boiling it. Then I added some powdered milk. Using a spoon, I mashed everything until it turned into a thick paste, a kind of dense porridge. Looking at the thick porridge in front of me, this should be baby food in the apocalypse. I let it cool, then brought it to the little one. "Papa, let me do it." Seeing me clumsily trying to feed her, Yirushu couldn't wait any longer. She simply took the spoon from my hands, hugged the bowl, and began eating by herself. Although the baby food I prepared was very simple and rustic, Yirushu did not complain. After all, in this apocalypse, having something to eat was already quite good. It was certainly better than drinking milk every day. Seeing the little one enjoy her meal, I couldn't help but feel emotional. Finally, little Kiki has grown up. After Yirushu finished eating, I began moving my machete. The machete cut through the air with great force. It seemed as if I were a martial arts expert. Yirushu was sitting on the sofa watching her zombie father practice with the machete from a distance. She felt very confused. Why did it seem like Papa had gained a lot of strength? Remembering the first time they met, her zombie father had seemed no different from the other zombies. The only thing was that he had a little less blood and wounds. His body was still thin and weak, filled with a rotten smell. But now, her zombie father wielding the machete, his figure now looked much more muscular. Yirushu, observing the wrinkles in my clothes and the general shape of my body, could deduce that beneath my clothes, beneath the clothes of her zombie father, my body was definitely muscular now. It even seemed like the color of my skin had changed. If one didn't look carefully, if one didn't observe closely, they might think I was a human. What is happening here? Could it be that zombies, just like humans, can improve their bodies through training? Thinking about it, Yirushu felt at ease with the idea. After all, in my past life, I also never encountered low-level undead who could retain human consciousness. Looking at his undead father, who kept swinging the machete, Yirushu couldn't help but recall some of the body-strengthening techniques he knew from his past life. If training could make someone stronger, would it be possible to teach these techniques to his father so he could practice them? His father was not an advanced undead, and with the apocalypse progressing, sooner or later, he would turn into a mere pawn. If he could increase his strength even a little, then his chances of survival in this apocalypse would also rise. At the same time, Jiru was also very curious about how the undead would turn out after training with these techniques. Could their combat power reach that of evolved undead? At that moment, I suddenly felt that I was receiving new information from the undead under my control. Changing my perspective, I realized that one of the undead had encountered an evolved undead. Without hesitation, I immediately headed in the direction of the evolved undead. Upon arrival, I began to concentrate my mental power and tried to control the other. The tank undead sensed the threat and let out a growl before becoming one of my controlled undead. Looking at this large controlled undead, I nodded in satisfaction. With the addition of an evolved undead, my combat power had increased considerably. With a large body beside me as I walked down the street, I felt my back straighten. On the way back home, I also passed by the neighborhood hardware store. With the big guy, I found 2 large hammers for him to use as weapons. Meanwhile, upstairs, Yirushu continued practicing the crystal breathing technique, training her control over mental power. The crystal breathing continued inhaling and exhaling, absorbing energy electrons in the air while simultaneously strengthening her body and increasing her mental power. After this continuous practice, Yirushu could already walk with more dexterity. She no longer stumbled like before and could even jump a little. Additionally, while I was away, Yirushu collected some iron nails elsewhere. During this time, she kept practicing her mental power. With a strong sound of air being cut, the iron nails were swiftly launched by Jirushu's mental power, embedding themselves directly into the dining table. With such force, they could definitely pierce a person's head with ease, ending a life. The talent for controlling mental power, combined with Jirushu's talent for controlling time, already granted her formidable combat strength, capable of taking lives effortlessly. In the apocalypse, even a baby could kill a person. Just thinking about it was truly terrifying. Looking at the iron nails embedded in the table, Jirushu felt satisfied. As long as she didn't encounter strange beings with special abilities, she should at least be able to protect herself. Gazing at the destroyed world outside the window, Jiru's eyes grew more determined. She was sure that in no time, she would be able to protect her undead father while going out to search for supplies. Even though she was just a baby now, the future. Empress would not be a burden. Jiru truly did not want to experience the feeling of loss again. Just when I was returning home, I encountered a giant mutant dog. I immediately controlled my big fat to attack. With a single blow, I crushed its dog head. After obtaining the core of the giant dog, I quickly ran home with the corpse. However, at that moment, an undead the size of my big fat appeared in front of us. It was clearly eyeing my big fat's core. I controlled my big fat and other undead, and without hesitation, I used the war of attrition tactic. Friend, you don't know who you're messing with. In less than 2.5 minutes, the core of that undead was already in my hands. Today is a lucky day for me. I obtained 2 mutant cores in a single day. My strength also increased considerably. Upon reaching the first floor, I processed the 2 cores. My mind became much clearer. Big Fat also ate the flesh of the giant dog, and his wounds were already healed. Meanwhile, in the living room, Ui had no idea that my team of undead and I were causing havoc outside. She had already started practicing crystal breathing. A large amount of energy particles in the air began to flow rapidly into her body, constantly strengthening her. Her body's strength increased, and after 2.5 seconds, she managed to advance to the 2nd level. It is important to know that humans, undead, and ferocious beings are classified into 9 levels according to their strength. The 1st level is the weakest, and the 9th is the strongest. The 7th level is the king, the 8th is the emperor, and the 9th is the imperial level, the strongest of all. In her past life, Ushu went through many battles, fighting tirelessly in the apocalypse. Now we are still at the beginning of the apocalypse, and some human techniques have yet to be discovered. But Yukshu possesses many powerful techniques from her past life, which allow her to grow stronger quickly. She felt satisfied. Now, she could completely protect herself in the apocalypse and even protect her undead father. At that moment, I entered through the door, and Irusu grabbed a nearby stuffed doll, pretending to be a normal child. She approached me, took a Barbie doll, and started playing with it. However, Irusu noticed the smell of blood on my body. She was certain it was fresh. Meanwhile, Iru also found some strands of hair. When I went to the kitchen to cook, Irusu carefully observed the hairs in front of her. Whose hair could this be? They are completely black and a bit stiff. Furthermore, they are long and thick. Could they belong to a mutant beast? My undead father is not an ordinary undead. As she began to doubt, Irusu's heart grew uneasy. She started feeling a little excited and carefully watched each of my movements. This further confirmed her suspicions. Undead that did not evolve even after the blood moon cannot evolve. However, their bodies do become stronger to some extent. But even so, they cannot be as agile as humans. Yet Ukshu could not notice any special abilities in her undead father. Aside from being stronger, more agile, and a little more handsome, there was no other difference. Suddenly, Ukshu had a bold idea. What if my undead father is not just an evolved undead? What if, in addition, he awakened an extremely rare ability? If this were true, then her undead father was hiding many things. She decided she could no longer ignore it. She was determined to uncover my special ability. She thought her undead father was not an ordinary being. He might even have the potential to become a king of the undead. Irusu couldn't help but smile. Seeing Iru smiling curiously while observing me, I felt in a good mood. However, I noticed that her clothes were already covered in dust. I immediately took out a new outfit and helped her change. Daddy, I will continue to grow stronger. Even in this apocalypse, I will make sure you live like a princess. A week later, Ushu was holding a learning machine while listening to a children's song. Suddenly, I felt a headache. This little one is growing up too fast. She's almost a prodigy. I never imagined that after the start of the apocalypse, a learning machine would actually be useful. Amita, you don't need to worry about my studies anymore. It seems that this slogan is not just a catchphrase, it really works. But what I didn't know was that before the apocalypse, Ukshu had already been accepted as a postgraduate student at a prestigious university. During this time, Irusu had already adapted to this childlike body. She could already speak normally, but she did not dare to reveal her identity. That's why, while holding the learning machine, Uchu appeared extremely focused. She studied each word, each phrase with great seriousness. Even though, with her experience from 2 lives, saying such simple words felt uncomfortable, she still made a great effort to pretend she was learning to speak. She looked at her undead father, who stood beside her, visibly moved. Ukshu sighed helplessly. My undead father, I'm doing all this for you, to make sure you learn primary education. Thanks to you, I even managed to get a learning machine. Why didn't you get me a stroller instead? Self-learning and the efficiency with which I learned surprised me. It made me very happy. However, during this time, although I have not encountered evolved undead, I did find some human survivors. Even though I did not act against them, upon hearing their laments, I felt like calm water in the midst of the apocalypse. They depend on fate. Wealth is in the hands of the heavens. With the eruption of the apocalyptic crisis, humanity's selfish nature will begin to reveal itself in this world. Betraying companions is something absolutely normal. I will not let the so-called virgin's heart guide me to help these people I do not even know. During this time, I also discovered that there are 2 large groups of survivors nearby. One is in the northwest zone of the Sunshine Complex, and the other is at the nearest police station to the complex. But I do not want to become an enemy of these 2 groups. As long as they do not bother me, I will not go through the trouble of dealing with them. I arrived in this world inexplicably, and was infected in the same inexplicable manner. I have accumulated enough anger already. Now that I finally have a peaceful and beautiful life, if anyone dares to break this peace, I will definitely make them pay for it. Jusu felt that the temperature around her was dropping rapidly. She could sense the murderous intent in me. Had something enraged Papa Zombie? Jusu was even more certain. Her Papa Zombie must be an evolved undead, and probably would not be easy to deal with. At that moment, I felt the undead begin to move, so I went downstairs under Jusu's confused gaze. At the same time, Lin and some police officers were gathering supplies. Although the police station had some stored resources, the quantity was limited. As time passed in the apocalypse, food was no longer sufficient. Suddenly, everyone heard a faint sound. What was that noise? Did you hear it? A police officer furrowed his brow and asked in a low voice. Lin took a look. It was probably the undead passing outside. Gather the supplies quickly and return to the police station. Don't let the undead block you. As expected, a thin undead appeared at the door, but those enormous canines betrayed its identity as an evolved undead. SA quickly ordered a retreat. The officers immediately opened fire, but this undead moved extremely fast. Several shots missed their target, and some officers lost their lives. SA fired 3 times at the mutated undead and shouted loudly to draw its attention. Go quickly! There are more survivors who need you. As she said this, Sun Lin even threw the supplies she had gathered to her companions. Even having reached this point, Sun Lin still thought of the survivors. I will attract the zombies' attention. With Lin's continuous gunfire and shouts, the evolved zombie really launched itself at her. Taolin saw the zombie chasing her, and his heart stopped. His gaze became empty. SA could not believe it, but there was no time to think. She quickly dodged the zombie and ran to the police station. Shortly after I came out from the corner, I never imagined that the zombie plague had lasted so long and that there were still people with compassionate hearts like hers. All this time, I have witnessed many fights between humans. In 1 second, they help. In the next, they stab each other in the back and hand their companions over to the zombies. This is the first time I have seen someone willing to sacrifice themselves for their companions, voluntarily staying behind. Even when she is about to die, she still thinks of the survivors she does not even know. In the police station, this kind of person is truly respectable. But the problem is that kindness and justice in the end of the world are the most useless things. Survival is all that matters. This kind of sacrifice in the apocalypse is very rare, but unfortunately, good people like her usually do not meet a good end in this world. I looked at the zombie in front of me. From today on, you will be called Chispas. Then I returned to the Sunshine Complex and ordered Chispas to stand guard downstairs. Now I control more than 20 low-level zombies and 2 evolved zombies. In this apocalypse, I feel like I could walk anywhere. However, just when I was about to review my troops, Jusu had already stealthily entered my small storage room. When she opened the door, she was surprised. She saw that the room on the 6th floor was filled with all kinds of supplies. These large and small supplies completely filled the storage space. Originally, the room had been prepared for something else. Now, not a single empty space remained. Her zombie father had accumulated so many supplies in this apocalypse that he could open a store immediately. Upon entering the room, Irusu inspected it and found 10 50-kilogram sacks of rice. As for the formula to make powdered milk, there was an enormous amount. There were well-known brands, and the cans of powdered milk filled the cabinets. They were stacked outside, looking like mountains of products. Even on top of them, there were bags of powdered milk, along with a large quantity of accumulated mineral water, reaching 3 meters high, filling up to the ceiling. Additionally, there were many daily use items, although they were mostly baby products, diapers of all types, baby bottles, bibs, etc. Looking at the variety of objects, Irusu was surprised, but at the same time, she felt a warm sensation in her heart. Her zombie father had clearly gathered all those supplies for her. After all, being a zombie, he would not need baby products. In such a chaotic world, gathering so many supplies and bringing them home must have been a great effort for Papa Zombie. Normally, Papa does nothing but take care of himself or practice combat techniques, going out very rarely. Being a zombie, moving so many supplies would definitely take a long time, but I have never seen my Papa Zombie in person. Thinking about this, Ue could not help but lose herself in her thoughts. But then, her eyes suddenly lit up. It is very likely that Papa is not an ordinary low-level zombie. That would explain everything. So many supplies. Could it be related to his evolutionary ability? But what would his evolutionary ability be? After so much time, I still haven't noticed the slightest clue. He started searching his mind for the abilities of the rare zombies he had encountered in his past life. He thought for a long time, but found no answers. Looking at the supplies in the room, could he have the ability to adapt to the terrain? Maybe he could move freely underground, which would significantly reduce the time needed to transport so many supplies quickly into the house. It was also possible that he had awakened a spatial ability, allowing him to move different types of supplies directly into the room through the power of space. But he quickly dismissed that hypothesis. Although that ability had great potential, using it in the early stages would require an enormous amount of energy. At that moment, he heard a small noise downstairs, and Irue quickly ran to the room on the 7th floor. As she pushed the door open to enter, she was surprised. Zia had started using the notebooks she bought. Although the characters Zia wrote were crooked, it was still vaguely possible to distinguish the word. The characters that Xiaokiki wrote were crooked, but one could still vaguely distinguish what the words were. Of course, even though the characters were so twisted, even though I have been single for years without having a relationship, I also have not had children. But I also know that at Xiaokiki's age, babies generally still crawl on the floor. When I met Xiaokiki, she didn't even have the strength to cry. The little one not only learned to stand up and walk, but also learn to speak. Even now, she has already begun to learn to write by herself. My daughter has the talent of a great emperor. How I wish all the credit belonged to Xiao Kiki's intelligence and the learning machine. Without a doubt, it is a great learning machine. I definitely don't need to worry about her studies. I crouched down and pinched Yerushu's cheek. Papa seems very happy today. It seems that this time, the trip was very successful, Yerushu thought in his heart, after spending this time together. At the same time, inside the police station, Shaolin, who had survived after escaping from the mouth of the evolved zombie, returned to the police station and found the survivors pointing at the officers and shouting, "What are you doing? Why do we, the ordinary citizens, have to go out to look for supplies? You wear police uniforms, and we are the taxpayers. We pay a lot of money to support you, and now you want us to go out and risk our lives? No way, forget it!" Cyan approached and stood between the two groups. When they saw that Cyan had returned alive, the police team members were shocked. After all, when they left, they saw that Shaolin had already been cornered by the evolved zombie. They couldn't believe that Shaolin had survived under those circumstances. The survivors were also very excited to see Cyan. "Officer Sao! I can't believe you're still alive! Officer Sao, come and settle this! Officers Li and Wang forced us to go out to look for supplies. This is a joke. We are just ordinary people. The outside world is too dangerous. What do we do if we encounter zombies out there? The outside is very dangerous, and they are forcing us to go out to gather supplies. This is abuse." Hearing these people's words, the officers present began to flush with anger. They didn't expect that, despite risking their lives going out to gather resources. Instead of receiving recognition, they would be criticized even more. Officers Li and Wang recalled what had happened at the Ho store, and an unnamed fury arose in their chests. "Shut up! Don't our lives matter? Should we just die then? Why is it always us who have to go out and risk our lives to gather resources while you just stay inside waiting for the supplies? Not even making the slightest effort?" Hearing their colleagues' complaints, Shaolin couldn't help but frown. "Enough! Stop making noise! Let us handle gathering the supplies. As police officers, it is our responsibility to protect the people. When there is danger, we will be the first to face it." Hearing these words from Sane, the survivors in the room began to clap and cheer. Officers Wang looked extremely angry, but remembering that Shaolin was the one who had lured the zombie, they just looked at each other and after a snort, said nothing more. The officers began distributing the supplies. The survivors, seeing the supplies they were given, started complaining. "There's less and less each time. Officer Sao, could you collect more food next time? What you brought isn't enough to eat." Yes, every night I go to bed starving. The food you bring is too little." Hearing these people's complaints, San couldn't help but frown. But seeing everyone's situation in this apocalypse, San couldn't help but feel moved. The food in the room was already running low. San had always believed that she should take care of others, so she always assigned herself the smallest portion of supplies. The others could still eat twice a day, while San only ate a small bag of... After becoming a zombie, I adopted a human baby. I never expected this baby to be the reincarnation of the human empress, but she thought I was just a weak zombie, Dad. So she decided to train me to become the strongest zombie. At that moment, Yerushu took advantage of my absence and began wandering around the room. She found a pile of documents and discovered that we were in the city of Hangai. According to her memories, Jamai was known for two powerful individuals. One of them, on the human side, was a strong cultivator in the imperial realm. The other was known as the Demon Police of the Nine Dead. Jirushu had heard that this Demon Police of the Nine Dead used to be an officer. During the early days of the apocalypse, she suffered betrayal from her comrades and died multiple times. However, this woman was very special. She possessed a strange resurrection ability. Each time she died, her power increased several times upon revival. However, she could only resurrect 9 times. Her original passion for her country and people gradually froze in the apocalypse, where humanity became ruthless. She transformed into a cold, murderous goddess and eventually grew into one of the strongest fighters. The other evolved monster was a giant bear from a zoo. It was a mutant bear that controlled the power of lightning, known as Thunder Roar. Yiru Shu didn't know much about this bear, but she had encountered the demon police of the Nine Dead several times, even personally killing her once. Recalling the memories of her past life, Yiru Shuen couldn't help but smile slightly. She didn't know if, after her reincarnation, she would meet that woman with the strange resurrection ability again. If she could find her first, she might consider capturing her. With such a powerful ability, the demon police of the Nine Dead should have achieved much more. But perhaps due to her personality, she wasted too many resurrection opportunities in the apocalypse and ultimately failed to reach the imperial level. To better protect her zombie dad, she needed to gather more people. So Yiru Shue trained for another 2.5 hours but did not see her zombie dad return. She quietly left and went downstairs. When she reached the 5th floor, she discovered that the door had been forced open. She opened the door and was stunned. Just like on the 6th floor, there was a large amount of stored supplies. More food, water, and baby products. Yiru Shui felt deeply moved. It turned out that her zombie dad had done so much for her in secret. She checked the lower floors, and as expected, they were all filled with supplies. Everything her zombie dad had built was for her. But when she reached the 2nd floor, she sensed an intense aura of aggression. Looking through the window, she saw a zombie wielding a pair of hammers standing in front of the building's entrance. This confused her even more. A zombie that strong was guarding the ground floor? How did Dad get out? Oh, that's right, I almost forgot. Dad is also an evolved zombie, now that I think about it. The ability Dad must have awakened is the power to move underground. It seems I must find a way to hunt more evolved zombies so that Dad can devour their crystal cores and evolve. I'll eliminate the great zombie on the ground floor soon. With something that strong guarding outside, it'll be inconvenient for Dad to move around. Then she thought about the fierce beast king. If I kill it, its crystal core will surely help Dad. Meanwhile, as I practiced with lightning, I had no idea that the great general of my army was already on my dear daughter's hunting list. After some time in battle, my combat skills improved considerably. I then returned to the lower floor with lightning. I had him keep watch alongside Big Fatty, while I went upstairs to take a bath. Even though I'm a zombie, I still live with the little one, on one. Hand, it's to prevent bacteria. Little Xiaokiki is still very young, and her immune system is not like an adult's. So hygiene and safety are important. On the other hand, I don't want the bad smell of my body to affect little Xiaokiki. When I came back upstairs, I noticed that Xiaokiki had fallen asleep on the sofa. I also made a decision. Since Xiaokiki could now walk, it was time to take her for a stroll. Besides, the surrounding zombies had already been eliminated, and with the protection of 2 evolved zombies, I had no reason to worry about dangers. In the following days, everything proceeded peacefully. Xiaokiki practiced walking, raised every day at home or playing with her learning machine, learning to speak and write. Just as I reached downstairs, I heard a loud rumble in the sky. I saw a green military helicopter flying through the air. Then I saw a bunch of papers falling from the sky. Picking them up, I saw that not only the city of Hangai, but the entire world had already fallen. The Yangi army had already established a survivor base in a town outside the city. The leaflet called for survivors from everywhere to voluntarily go to the survivor base. I threw it away immediately. After all, I am now a zombie. The human survivor base has nothing to do with me. If they really find me, they will probably first invite me to a barrage of bullets. Yiru Shue, in the room on the 7th floor, also heard the noise of the plane and quickly used her telekinesis to obtain a leaflet. Upon reading the information on it, Jiru smiled coldly. She remembered that in her past life, because she still had hope in humanity at the beginning of the apocalypse, she joined a human survivor base. But after entering, she discovered that the evolved ones were the superiors. The stronger one was, the more benefits one obtained, while common survivors were considered the lowest workforce. The most critical thing was that even in the apocalypse, humanity could not unite to resist the zombies. They still deceived and betrayed each other. In her opinion, those humans were not even better than her zombie father. At least her zombie father would not betray her. Meanwhile, the survivors at the police station thought the plane had come to rescue them, but after dropping the leaflets, it simply flew away. What is happening? Why did the plane leave? After so long, we finally saw a plane, and it didn't even stop. It just flew away. Solin also showed a look of resignation. However, everyone picked up the leaflets and began to check them. Great! It's the survivor base. We're saved. I knew humanity couldn't completely disappear. Obviously, they still have the strength to establish a survivor base. However, these common people were unarmed and completely weak. Then, the survivors turned their attention to Sign and the other police officers. Officer Sao, you are police officers. Protecting our safety is your responsibility. You have to escort us to the survivor base. Exactly! We don't have weapons. You have to protect us. Upon hearing the survivors' words, the other officers present were not pleased. Are you crazy? If you want to commit suicide, don't drag us with you. Have you even seen where the survivor base is? It's so far from our police station. By the time we get there, we'll probably have already been devoured by zombies. Seeing the intense argument, Solin couldn't help but feel overwhelmed and quickly intervened. I understand everyone's desire to leave the city and reach the survivor base. As police officers, we will undoubtedly protect you. I promise to guide you to the base. With these words from Solin, those who were furious before began to cheer. Everyone gathered around Solin. However, the other police officers had very serious expressions. Solin, this is not the time to be impulsive. You know how dangerous it is out there. What are you going to do to escort them to the survivor base? Seeing her colleague's opposition, Solin quickly began to explain. I know going to the survivor base is dangerous, but think about this. Now there are already evolved zombies. Those guys are very strong. There are already too many zombies in the city. Staying here is not a long-term option. Surely it will be even more dangerous. Besides, our supplies, they are already insufficient. We need replenishment. The survivor base is outside the city, far from the large waves of zombies. The probability of surviving there is much higher than staying in the city. Upon hearing this, the officers began to reconsider. After a while, they reached a temporary agreement and then started making plans. The survivor base is a great distance away. We can't walk there. That's impossible. First, we need to find vehicles. Ideally, we should get large trucks. Those trucks have high chassis, and the vehicle is heavy enough that even if we encounter zombies on the way, we can crush them. After hearing Sain's plan, a middle-aged man among the survivors raised his hand. Officer Sao, if you need trucks, I can help. Before the apocalypse, I used to drive large, long-distance trucks. But when the apocalypse came suddenly, my truck was not nearby. It's parked at my... Sain quickly asked, where is your house? Let's go get the truck quickly. It's not far from the police station. My house is in the Sunshine community. Meanwhile, Yiru Shu, upon waking up, realized that her zombie dad was not in the room. Feeling bored, she grabbed some binoculars and walked to the balcony. But the big zombie that had been at the door before was now standing at the entrance of the community. She looked around but did not see her zombie dad, which left her somewhat disappointed. However, Yiru Shuen did not know that in a corner where she could not see, I was engaged in a high-level battle with lightning. Today's training was almost over. Chao Kiki had probably already woken up. It was time to go back and cook for her. But at that moment, something alerted me. I quickly shifted my focus to the big fat one. At the entrance of the Sunshine community, a few suspicious figures appeared. Those 4 figures were Sain, 2 police officers, and the middle-aged man who could drive large trucks. The group avoided the zombies and stealthily approached the area near Sunshine. They wanted to use the truck to escape from there. However, upon seeing the big fat one standing at the entrance of the community, everyone from Solin was shocked. Some suggested going back and looking for another solution, but Solin insisted on continuing. We saw Solin approach the big fat one stealthily. She picked up a stone from the edge of the road and threw it directly at the big fat one, trying to lure the zombie away. I recognized the female police officer from before, but I didn't understand why Cyan wasn't looking for supplies near the police station. Why had she come all the way to the Sunshine community? Solin was also quite confused. Normally, evolved zombies should have gone directly toward her. But now, the big fat one was standing still, not moving. She threw several more stones, but the zombie did not react. Sane decided to draw her gun. Seeing this, I immediately became furious. Although I didn't know her intention, if she dared to pull a weapon in front of my zombie, there was only one path for her: death. A gunshot broke the silence of the street, but when I saw Solin draw her weapon, I was already prepared. I immediately controlled the two giant hammers and placed them over my head. For a tank-type zombie, as long as the head isn't damaged, other problems are not a big deal. Solin was also frozen in place. She did not expect this tank-type zombie to use a hammer to block her bullets. During this time, Saul had fought many zombies while searching for supplies, but it was the first time she had seen such a strange zombie. Hearing the gunshot, Jiru Shu, who was training, was startled. She quickly stopped her training, her short legs moving fast as she ran to the balcony. She took out her binoculars and looked toward the entrance of the community. She saw Solin aiming her gun at the big fat one. What is happening? Why is there a cop? Here, this police officer is so brave that he dares to shoot an evolved zombie alone, and on top of that, a tank-type zombie of enormous size. Yiru Shu, observing the scene through binoculars, was very surprised. However, that police officer seems familiar to me. Jiru Shui adjusted the distance of the binoculars, and upon zooming in, recognized Solin's face. He felt that he had seen him somewhere before, but couldn't remember. After the shot, I was really furious. Last time, I happened to save his life. I didn't expect this police officer with a defective brain to dare to challenge me this way. I don't care who you are. If you dare to attack me, you will have nothing but a fatal fate. I controlled Gran Gordo, who was holding a double hammer, and sent him to chase Solin. Solin, calm upon seeing that her plan had worked, smiled. She turned around and began to flee, planning to lure Gran Gordo into an isolated area. But just at that moment, Solin heard a sharp sound behind her. Instinctively, she turned and was shocked by what she saw. A massive hammer flew through the air toward her. Damn it, this zombie doesn't follow the rules. Before dying, Solin only saw darkness before her eyes. Blood began to gush from her mouth, and in her mind there was only one thought. Solin didn't understand why the zombie she encountered today was so different from the previous ones. The hammer thrown by Gran Wo was as heavy as 1,000 kilograms. With Solin's frail body, she couldn't stop it. She was hit directly and died instantly. I controlled Gran Wo and approached Solin's body. I picked up the giant hammer and took the gun from her body. Looking at the blood-covered hammer in my hands and the body at my feet, I felt satisfied. Good aim, although I still need to keep practicing. Anyone who dares to shoot at me, I will kill them without mercy, no matter who they are. Even if the Virgin Mary herself came, I think I'd smash her head with a hammer, too. The two police officers hiding and the truck driver, upon seeing Solin struck and killed by the hammer, panicked and fled. The three didn't even care about picking up Solin. They turned around and ran. The three of them wished they had more legs, fearing they would be caught by the evolved zombie behind them. Yiru Shu, on the 7th floor, observed everything below through the binoculars. Wow! This big zombie is truly too brutal. He killed that police officer with a single hammer strike. Although the police officer had some mental problems, this zombie was too ruthless. However, in the memories of my past life, zombies usually only evolve at the final stage to regain their intelligence. Only the most powerful evolved zombies learn to use weapons to fight. But low-level zombies like Gran Gordo in front of me shouldn't be able to do that. Their basic way of attacking is hitting with their fists, arms, etc. If even a first-level zombie could, if the tank-type zombie in front of me learned to use weapons to attack so soon, it would be a catastrophe for human survivors. This big zombie is not only brutal in combat, but my dad has to pass near him every day. He has probably scared him a lot. This zombie can't stay here much longer. He is too fierce in killing people. We must eliminate him as soon as possible. Yiru Shu made up her mind. She was convinced that if she could secretly kill this powerful zombie, her father would be very happy. Besides, she could have her father absorb the crystal of this evolved zombie. Yes, her father's strength would increase significantly. However, Jiru Shuen didn't want to expose her strength too soon. After all, she was still a baby of less than a year old. While other children her age were still struggling to crawl on the ground, if she could kill an evolved zombie, it would truly be unheard of. She thought for a moment and decided that the best thing would be to hide her true situation and Grano and killed the Virgin of the Apocalypse with a single hammer blow. I didn't expect that this woman, when night fell, would get up. At that moment, even Sane was confused. I'm not dead. How am I still alive? She quickly checked her body, touched one side, looked to the other, and saw that her body was covered in blood, but she didn't find a single wound. Not even her bones were broken. From Gran Gordo's perspective, he was also bewildered. This woman is like a cockroach. Not even the hammer blow did anything to her. I can assure you this woman is not a zombie. He thought about the evolved humans mentioned by the army, but the ability to die and resurrect was truly strange. Sane also noticed a change in herself. She rubbed her fists and felt that her body was full of energy. After testing herself, she discovered that her physical abilities had increased considerably. Both her strength and speed had improved a lot. She thought about the pamphlet and suddenly understood. Could I also be an evolved one? The next day, Yiru Shue gave me her math homework to check. When I saw it, I was stunned. Xiao Kiki isn't even a year old and she already knows how to add. Seeing my reaction, Yiru Shu also got scared. Am I being too obvious? Yiru Shu really didn't want to keep acting like a fool. Pretending to be a baby who knows nothing was really too difficult. Suddenly, I laughed out loud. Xiao Kiki is truly amazing. No wonder she's a child prodigy. The previous policewoman resurrected, and a child under a year old who knows how to add. What's so strange about that? In such a peculiar environment, I think that unless the little one builds a nuclear weapon with her bare hands, nothing would surprise me at all. My daughter has the bearing of an empress. Seeing her zombie dad so happy, Yiru Shue knew that her situation had not yet been exposed. Her dad didn't suspect anything, so she felt relieved. It seemed that now she could continue doing extraordinary things so her zombie dad would get used to her. Because playing dumb every day was too difficult. After going downstairs, Yiru Shu used the binoculars again to look at the entrance of the community. She wanted to see if the body of the policewoman from yesterday was still there in the same place. But at that moment, something even stranger happened in the community. Something that caught Yiru Shu's attention. She saw that a group of large zombies had gathered from different corners of the community. Each of these zombies wore a fully covered motorcycle helmet and carried sharp firefighter axes. However, among this group, one figure caught Yiru Shu's attention. Seeing the familiar clothing, it was clearly her zombie dad who had just gone down. This group of zombies headed toward the exit of the community, and then they all followed behind the large zombie guarding the gate. Together, they left the Sunshine community. Yiru Shu was in shock. Strange. At such a short distance, how is it that this great zombie didn't attack Dad? In Yiru Shu's memories, when evolved zombies get close to each other, they attack for each other's energy crystals. But the scene she saw through the telescope was very strange. Dad is an evolved zombie. How can he be at peace with this giant zombie tank? Could I be wrong? Could it be that Dad is just a normal zombie and not an evolved one? Yiru Shu thought that his hidden identity was well concealed, but now, suddenly, I discovered that my zombie dad also seems to be very mysterious. It can't be. I need to find an opportunity to investigate thoroughly, to see if Dad is really an evolved zombie and what kind of special ability he has awakened. I didn't know that my daughter had already discovered several clues. When I arrived with my squad of zombies at a shopping street, a zombie suddenly ran towards us. I quickly controlled my zombie to block it. This agile zombie has very strong combat power. These low-level zombies are no match for it. Then, I used my mental power to control the zombie. This is my third evolved zombie. Since it is a second category agile zombie, I will call it Lightning number 2. At this rate, my army of zombies will continue to expand. At first, I didn't feel that my ability was so monstrous. But now, as my power continues to grow, I realize how terrifyingly unique this talent is. It is truly frightening. I have even envisioned the imposing future of controlling an army of countless evolved zombies. Meanwhile, Jiru Shue was trying to figure out what was happening with her zombie dad. What is going on with my zombie dad? That's why she waited on the balcony until he returned. But soon, Jiru Shu made a new discovery. She saw that the group of zombies that had left came back, and in addition to the original zombies, another agile zombie had surprisingly appeared next to Dad. What is happening here? How did another evolved zombie appear? This scene caused a great impact on Jiru. She furrowed her brow, and upon recalling memories from her past life, Jiru Shu finally thought of a possible explanation. Being able to gather several brainless evolved zombies, control their desire to devour each other without them killing one another, and live in peace means that within the Sunshine community, there exists a king of the zombies. Upon thinking this, Jiru Shu couldn't help but feel incredulous. Knowing that zombie kings are extremely rare, that it is very difficult for one to emerge among 100,000 zombies. Could it be that my zombie dad and I are so unlucky that a zombie king appeared right in the Sunshine community? Could it be that Dad and the other evolved zombies are under the orders of this zombie king in the community? Or maybe Dad is the king of the zombies, but as soon as this thought appeared, Jiru Shu dismissed it immediately, because the king of the zombies usually hides in some corner, making the other zombies follow his orders. Even when a zombie tide breaks out, the king of the zombies only hides in the depths. But today, her zombie dad went out directly with the horde of zombies. This is a great taboo for the king of the zombies. Out of precaution, the king of the zombies would absolutely not allow himself to be exposed to danger. It can't be. I have to find out. Of zombies, this is a great taboo for the king of the zombies. The king of the zombies, out of caution, would absolutely not allow himself to be exposed to danger. It can't be. I have to find a way to help Dad break free from the control of the king of the zombies. Jiru Shue looked down at the crowd of zombies, and a cold look shone in his eyes. What the hell is this king of the zombies? And Dad Jiru is also someone that a type like you cannot control. You better hide well in a small area. If I find you, I will kill you without hesitation. I, Content, didn't know that even my subordinates, the zombies, were already on Xiaokiki's kill list. After returning with Lightning number 2, I began to divide the tasks. The big fat guy would continue with the hammers at the main door of the complex. The Lightnings, as agile zombies, together with Lightning number 2, would lead 10 fully armed common zombies to continue patrolling the complex. Seeing the zombies fulfilling their duties, I felt satisfied. I will go build an iron wall to protect the entire complex. Meanwhile, after Solin returned to the police station, everyone was in shock. She told everyone about her evolution, however, the others were still surprised. When they looked at Solin, she still wanted to go to the Sunshine complex to get the truck. The next day, I saw that several figures appeared at the entrance of the complex. The person at the front was thin. Through the transparent visor of the bulletproof helmet, I saw that this person was the same officer who should have been beaten to death. This officer has returned to seek her death. This time, I will make you meet Puree. I don't think you can resurrect again. While the big guard was running towards Seol, this time San easily dodged the attack. He was a little surprised that every time he launched the hammer, that officer managed to dodge it with great agility. With a sharp accent, Kun Kan Zom instantly understood. Could it be that this woman is the same nine-death demonic detective that I found in my past life? Seeing that Seol was busy with the big fat guy, the rest of the people quickly began to search inside the Sunshine community. However, they soon encountered a squad of zombies armed with firefighter axes. The evolved zombies, Flash and Flash number 1, the police officers were paralyzed for a moment, looking at the zombies that appeared in front of them. Their brains went blank. Thanks to her extraordinary agility and speed, Sane was spinning with Dapan non-stop. I also began to reflect. The opponent had been changing direction from the beginning. Clearly, he was stalling for time. Why did this group of people come for no reason? They came to do to the Sunshine community. At that moment, Yiru Shui, after confirming Olin's identity, began to think about how to subdue her. Not only could he obtain a valuable general in the future, but he could also protect his zombie dad. When I discovered that other people had entered the community, I stopped controlling and directly gave an order to Dapan. Crush this police officer with the hammer. Then I controlled another group of zombies and led his team towards that group of people. When the officers reacted, they quickly pulled the triggers. Upon hearing the rapid shots, Jirushu on the 7th floor completely changed his expression. The first thing he thought was about his zombie dad. Could it be that these humans already know about the Zombie King, so they came in advance to kill the Zombie King? If not, why did these fully armed police officers come here for no reason to the Sunshine community? There are no resources or survivors. Apart from that, only the Zombie King attracts humans. Yirushu was getting more and more worried to avoid that her zombie dad would die among these evolved humans. She quickly opened the door and ran from the 7th floor to the 2nd. Arriving at the balcony, Jirushu discovered that the zombie team was much stronger than she thought. Their strength was much greater than she imagined. Facing the policeman's shots, the zombie team raised their firefighter axes, raised them in front of their heads, and attacked with fury. The sudden appearance of the zombies made the police officers feel somewhat disoriented. Now, seeing that the zombies blocked the bullets with their axes, the police officers were completely stunned. Are these really zombies? Now they can also block bullets. Damn it, it's Sa Olin's fault. If she hadn't insisted on coming to get the truck, we wouldn't have ended up in this situation. The police officers were shooting while cursing. After looking around in the neighborhood, Yirushu suddenly saw her dad hiding in the corner of a building. Seeing that her dad was safe, Yirushu sighed in relief. It seems that my zombie dad is not common. He didn't follow the orders of the Zombie King to go to the front as bait. Faced with these strange zombies, the police officers no longer felt like fighting, running frantically towards the neighborhood gate. Under my order, the zombies approached without hesitation, raised their axes, and directly attacked the throats and joints of the humans. An agonizing scream echoed throughout the neighborhood. "Sa Olin? Even if I become a ghost, I won't let you go." Where did these zombies come from? Among the agonizing screams, several officers were directly decapitated by the axe blows. The sound of gunfire in the neighborhood stopped. Yirushu, standing on the balcony, couldn't help but take a deep breath. She never imagined that the Zombie King in the neighborhood would be so terrifying. The zombies under his control even knew how to arm themselves. They can even block bullets. Such a terrifying Zombie King must be hidden somewhere. Jirushu frowned. She thought silently about whether she should take this opportunity to eliminate the king of the zombies immediately. Jirushu thought for a moment, then finally shook her head. The king of the zombies has probably already reached level 2. He is at the same level as me. Besides, he has 3 evolved zombies by his side. It will be better to wait until I reach level 3 before acting, to avoid involving my zombie father. Yirushu quickly returned to the 7th floor. I saw the bodies of the officers torn apart by the zombies' axe blows. I felt somewhat confused. What is here that attracts them? I took their weapons and ammunition immediately. I felt safer. The power of these weapons is really strong. Could it be possible that later I can also supply these zombies with weapons, zombies that shoot guns? Who could resist that? After solving this, I changed my perspective towards the big fat guy for a moment. Neither of them could do anything to the other. San was only thinking about stalling for time. She wanted her companions to enter the neighborhood to look for the truck keys. With the truck, everyone would have hope of leaving the city. But Saulene didn't know that her fellow police officers had already been killed by the zombies inside the neighborhood. Of the entire group that came from the police station, only she, the evolved one, was still alive. After I personally controlled the big fat guy, his combat ability increased enormously. Sane suddenly discovered the speed with which the big fat guy swings his hammers became much faster. Taolin could only rely on her evolved body to dodge the attacks by a hair. What's going on? How did this fool suddenly become so intelligent? With the combat pressure increasing, Solin was sweating profusely. I saw an opportunity, and with the giant hammer in my left hand, I turned it to stab directly. I pushed Solin back right after when Solin couldn't react as she approached. I launched the giant hammer with my right hand with force, directly breaking Solin's spine. The sound of the bone breaking was crystal clear. Since I had seen with my own eyes how this woman died and resurrected, this time I began to swing the two hammers with fury as if I were hitting meat dumplings. I broke all of Solin's bones. Her internal organs were shattered. Everything around was soaked in blood. I saw how Solin stopped breathing completely. It was only then that I stopped attacking. For someone who comes looking for trouble, I'm never going to have mercy, much less after say Olin resurrected yesterday. Today she has come with more people. Who knows if next time she will bring an army. Destroy IC if you have the courage. Resurrect again. From the upper floor, Jiru Shuin couldn't help sighing at seeing this scene. Can this woman be even more foolish? Such a valuable resurrection opportunity. And she used it like that, wasted it like that. What an idiot! Did you know that you only have 9 lives to resurrect? And you have already wasted 2 of them so easily. Taking the police pistol from Solin, I was thinking about whether I should also destroy the police station. Surely there are many weapons and ammunition in the station. Normally, police stations are well equipped with weapons. If possible, maybe I could equip the zombies with these weapons. I could form a squad of zombies with firearms. Thinking this, I made a decision. Tomorrow, I will send an evolved zombie to investigate the situation near the police station, mainly to see if there are other evolved ones in the police station. This woman who can resurrect surprised me a lot. She resurrected in one night and healed completely. This is even more incredible than a zombie. The knight waits 10 years to arse, but I am a zombie. If I have an enemy, I kill him on the spot. If someone offends me, they must be completely exterminated. This police station has come several times to cause problems. As long as it threatens my and Xiao Kiki's safety, no matter who it is, I will kill him without mercy. At night, after watching Xiao Kiki sleep peacefully, I went to the living room to think about the following plans. Now, the growth rate of Xiao Kiki is clearly faster than that of a normal baby, and this daughter of mine is a true prodigy. How could I provide a Xiao Kiki with a better environment for her growth? First, the Sunshine Residential Complex is definitely not a place to stay for long, although I now have enough food stored. But you can't live only on reserves. Eventually, the food will run out. Even if it doesn't run out, it could decompose due to the temperature change. I can't keep the food for a long time. Maybe I should cultivate the land. Anyway, I have so many zombies they are free labor. But at that moment, something suddenly surprised me. My eyes filled with amazement. When I changed the view of Big Fat, I saw that the officer that I had destroyed in the morning was now standing completely intact. Wow, this woman has a secret trick, and being part of the funeral family, I adopted a human baby. I never imagined that this baby was the reincarnation of the human empress, and she even managed to attract the immortal demon from her past life, all because she thought he was controlled by the funeral king. Without knowing it myself, I am the funeral king she is seeking. At this moment, Yiru Shui sees Solin arriving at the agreed place. From the 7th floor, she throws a paper airplane towards Solin. When he opens the letter, he discovers that in the end, there are only 3 words: the invisible. But upon reading the content of the letter, he is completely astonished. In the Sun Residential Complex, Ha-Uno-san recalls all his experiences at the entrance of the complex. His mind cannot calm down, and he firmly decides that he will not allow the funeral king to remain alive. So he agrees to join the invisible. At dawn the next day, Jiru Shu eats the breakfast she prepared herself, a smile appearing on her lips. The collaboration agreement to eliminate the funeral king is already in place. As she looks at her funeral father, Yiru clenches her fists with enthusiasm while eating. "Dad, don't worry. You just need to hold on for 2 more days, and you will be freed from the Zombie King's control. With the Funeral King's core and the evolved zombies from the complex, the combined cores will surely increase her father's strength rapidly. She eagerly anticipates how much her father's strength can grow. I never imagined that this filial daughter would want to extract my own core to give it to me. 2 days earlier, by consuming the core of a level 2 tyrant, my strength increased considerably. If I controlled a level 2 evolved zombie, I would be unstoppable. Unfortunately, expanding the search area was not enough. 2 days passed, and we found nothing. As night slowly falls, Yirushu's heart begins to race. Tonight is the appointed time with the immortal demon to kill the Funeral King. Meanwhile, Cyan has already infiltrated the Sun Complex. I don't know, with my current strength, what kind of situation I would face against that king of the undead. But thinking that he had been resurrected twice in a row, the infiltrator had already been arranged beforehand. Then, he walked directly to the main entrance of the complex. Cyan's eyes shone with battle intent and bloodlust. He had been killed twice in a row by that monster. Even a calm person can become enraged. "Monster, I'm coming for you!" Upon approaching the tank-type undead, Cyan shouted loudly. This was part of the prior agreement with the mysterious master. He had to draw the undead's attention. Meanwhile, on the 7th floor, recovering my mental energy, I was instantly alarmed. "Huh? It's you again? You never stop, do you? If you insist on seeking death, then today, no matter what, I will make you stay forever, immortal." Hearing the noise outside, I immediately got up. The plan has begun. Now the hunt begins. Yirushu stealthily descended the stairs, then sneaked to the 2nd floor of Building 1. It was the same place where she had helped Cyan before. When she arrived, the great battle outside had already begun. Due to an advancement in her mental energy, amid the fight, I could also control Big Fat more efficiently. Consecutive strikes, one after another, the combined use of the hammers was impeccable, leaving almost no room for Cyan to breathe. Cyan frowned, constantly dodging. The tank-type undead in front of him taunted him. Cyan felt a chill run down his body. Without time to think, he performed several backflips to evade. As he barely landed, Cyan saw 2 agile undead appear, each wielding 2 steel knives in their hands. If he had been a little slower, his hands and feet would have been severed by these blades. Do you really think that being evolved makes you invincible? Today, I will make you pay for your arrogance. When the giant hammer was about to hit Cyan's abdomen, Dupan's body suddenly froze in mid-air for a second in a strange way. When I fought against this cop a few days ago, something similar had already happened. What kind of power is this? How can it affect my movements? I hid in the darkness, controlling the zombies to attack Cyan while looking around non-stop. But this sensation of continuously failing is starting to frustrate me. I directly called the zombie sniper squad. Several zombies raised their weapons. "This is like cheating." Yirushu, observing the battle, frowned upon seeing this. When Cyan heard the gunfire, he immediately realized the danger. He sent a telepathic message to Cyan, but there was no time to react. "Don't get distracted. Don't waste time with these 3 evolved zombies. Killing the Zombie King is our main objective today." His mobility was restricted, making him an easy target. While fighting, Cyan heard Yirushu's reminder. Yiru deflected the bullet's trajectory using telekinesis. "Are you kidding me? Bullets can bend around corners?" The bullets that were supposed to hit the cop avoided her perfectly. This can really make bullets curve? Just how much has this hidden expert evolved? Yirushu, who controlled the battlefield from the shadows, had a look of satisfaction. Fortunately, after my rebirth, not only did I retain the power to control time, but I also awakened telekinesis. Otherwise, with just time control, I wouldn't have been able to stop so many bullets. At first, Cyan was afraid of getting hurt, so her combat was very limited, basically focusing on constantly dodging. But now, seeing that the bullets could be deflected in front of her, Shaolin finally let loose. In this situation, Shaolin fought more and more bravely. With just a knife, She repeatedly injured Adapan, Lightning 1 and Lightning 2. This makes me want to spit blood from the rage. In close combat, my attacks are blocked. At a distance, the bullets are deflected. I just realized the purpose this time. Afterward, she stopped chasing fiercely. Instead, she adjusted her direction and advanced slowly toward the main entrance. Then, taking advantage of the gap between the three evolved zombies, Sane quickly ran toward the Sunshine residential complex. This sudden change took me by surprise. I immediately controlled Big Fat, and Lightning 1 and Lightning 2 advanced to block her. However, I discovered that the three evolved zombies under my control were restricted by an inexplicable force. They couldn't move from their spots. Damn it! Hiding in the shadows isn't a skill. If you have guts, come out and face me directly. With no other option, I had to intervene to stop Solin. Even at the risk of being discovered, I wouldn't allow anyone to enter the complex, much less threaten Sakiki's safety. Is there another evolved zombie in this complex? When she saw me emerge from the crowd of zombies, Sane was completely stunned. Even Jiru Shu, hidden on the second floor, was astonished. The intervention of the Papa Zombie ruined their plans. Wasn't it said under the Zombie King's orders that he wouldn't come out to be cannon fodder? Jiru Shui was now in a dilemma. She had no problem facing other zombies, but she couldn't attack Papa Zombie. While she hesitated, I had already begun fighting Solin. The more we fought, the more surprised Solin became. Even with her two tactical swords, she struggled to match the strength of this zombie. Damn it, how complicated is this Sunshine complex? It's even harder than those three outside. While controlling Big Fat, I saw Lightning 1 and 2, freed from Jiru Shu's control, quickly come in my direction to support me. When Jiru Shu saw the three evolved zombies enter the complex and join the battlefield, she knew that if the operation was delayed any longer, tonight's mission would probably fail. Looking at Papa Zombie's figure, Jiru Shu's eyes were filled with doubt. I couldn't help but use time control on Yuan. I did it to eliminate that evolved Zombie King. Once I eliminate him, you will be freed from his control, and then you will be completely liberated. Meanwhile, Jiru Shui hurried to transmit a message to Saul. Get inside the compound quickly. Don't waste time. The evolved zombie in front of Sein Feng was immediately controlled. She prepared to kick him, but the next second, she suddenly noticed that her body had also stopped. She was suspended in the air, unable to move. What does this mean? Are you attacking your own companions too? At that moment, Jiru Shu's voice echoed in San's mind. You can't touch this zombie. Among zombies, but Jusui ignored Solin's doubts and just kept transmitting his message. Remember what I just told you, in Jiru Shu's tone. Shaolin perceived a slight hint of threat. She realized that if she really attacked the zombie in front of her, the invisible being in the shadows, all of them, could turn against her. With no other option, she had to abandon the attack on me and ran directly into the complex. I immediately wanted to follow her, but I discovered that my body was once again restrained by a cursed force. Stop right now! At that moment, I understood. Even while I was struggling with my three zombies, her main objective was to break into the Sunny complex. But now, I was only worried about the safety of the little one. However, I couldn't do anything. I could only stand there, watching helplessly. San quickly entered the Sunny complex. This time I won't let you escape. I let out a heart-wrenching howl in the middle of the night. This sound would shake anyone who heard it. The terrifying sound made the nearby zombies tremble. Jiru Shu, standing atop the building, saw the zombie leader letting out roars of extreme fury without ceasing. Her heart filled with guilt. She never imagined that one day she would attack the zombie leader. Everything I do is for your own good. You just have to survive this night. After that, everything will get better. For the first time, she felt something toward the zombie leader as she watched his figure from behind. Jiru Shu's eyes filled with tears. However, she soon pushed those feelings aside. It was like being a headless fly, not knowing where to start. She quickly sent another transmission to Sein inside the complex. The Zombie King is cunning and deceitful, although he is also intelligent. Therefore, the place where the Zombie King is hiding must be heavily guarded by zombies. Those zombies will do anything to stop you. That proves that this zombie king is definitely still inside the Sunny complex. Yiru Shu's eyes burned with fury. The thought that her zombie father had been used as a pawn by this zombie king filled her with the desire to tear him apart. This also further strengthened Yiru Shu's determination to kill the zombie king. Keep searching inside the complex. If you find a place where a large number of zombies are desperately trying to block your way, that will be the zombie king's hideout. Chaolin, hearing this, thought it made sense, nodded, and followed Yiru Shu's instructions to search carefully. Although I was restrained by a mysterious force and could not move, there were still several puppets inside the complex. I immediately began to control those puppets to move. Some of them ran toward Shaolin, while others were directed toward building number 5. After destroying several puppets controlled by Luan, Shaolin was somewhat confused. While in the center of the complex, she had searched everywhere, but still could not find where the zombie king might be hiding. It's strange. The information provided by the informant matches. Why can't I find the possible hideout of the zombie king? Sane looked at the residential buildings around her, scratching her head, very confused. Meanwhile, Yiru Shu also continued to observe the situation from above. Her capabilities were limited. She could not control so many zombies for long, so she had to speed up the process. She needed to finish off the zombie king as soon as possible. Suddenly, Yiru Shu was astonished to realize that there was a large group of zombies gathered in one place. But that place where they were gathered was building number 5, where she had spent much time with her zombie father. What is going on with these zombies? Why are they all in front of my building? Seeing the zombies in front of building number 5, Yiru Shu was puzzled. Inside the Sunny complex, whether evolved zombies or normal zombies, they were all basically under the control of the zombie king, hidden in the shadows. In this situation, many zombies should be protecting the zombie king. Yiru Shu remembered clearly, even though the zombie king could control the zombies, his combat ability was not particularly strong. If the zombie king were attacked up close by an evolved human, he could be in danger. This is very strange. I've checked all the rooms in building number 5, and there are only the supplies my zombie father brought. What is going on with this group of zombies? While Yiru Shu remained confused, I had followed their instructions and found building number 5, where the zombies gathered. Seeing how firmly they guarded the building, an expression of determination appeared in Salin's eyes. It seems that the zombie king, capable of controlling the zombies, is hiding inside building number 5, I thought. Under my control, many zombies emitted furious warning growls. "We must eliminate the zombie king!" Sain shouted angrily, and then, brandishing her tactical knife, she ran toward building number C. I stood in front of building number C, watching as Sain ran quickly in my direction, filled with fury and surprise. Initially, my intention was to defend the entire complex, but I did not expect this evolved human to have such strange abilities, this power that made my body freeze and become rigid. With no other choice, I had to retreat and withdraw to building number 5. None of that matters to me. The only thing I cannot allow is for these 2 evolved humans to disrupt my little Kiki on the 7th floor. Since they do not respect my warning, we will fight to the end. I have been dead for a long time. Even if I lose my life again today, I will not allow them to take a single step into building number 5. However, just when I was about to succeed, that strange force once again took control of the 3 zombies. I roared in rage, gripped my machete tightly, and lunged forward with my great combat skills. But I was deeply enraged that, despite my desperate efforts, the tactical knife in her hands approached quickly, heading directly for my neck. "This time you will die, won't you?" Sane sneered coldly, but in the next second, she was stunned. Suddenly, she also became immobile, which made her expression turn grim. Then Sane pretended to stumble, losing her balance as if she were about to fall backward. As expected, seeing this, I raised my knife to attack. The invisible being once again took control of the zombie. Salin seized this opportunity and attacked with her long knife. Now enraged, Cyan shouted, This is the last straw. Whose side are you really on, Jirushue? Jirushue also responded in a cold voice. I already told you, you cannot touch this zombie. Sensing the other person's cold tone, Solin began to suspect. In silence, this invisible being, as evolved as it was, had decided to join the human team as a police officer. During the rescue missions, it had seen many survivors who lost their loved ones. Many people could not accept that their loved ones had turned into zombies. They still thought it was a disease and did not want to attack them because of the weight of family ties. These people refused to accept the fact that their loved ones were already gone. Now, Solin also saw this invisible being as someone like those he had known before. After imagining a tragic scene of family separation, a spark of compassion shone in Solin's eyes. This invisible individual was too indecisive. Solin sighed silently. It doesn't matter. Since you can't make a decision, let me help you cut all ties with the painful past once again. This mysterious force immobilized me. I saw Solin's knife approaching my forehead. I struggled with all my strength, but it was useless. At that moment, the image of the adorable Xiaoqi appeared in my mind. Xiao, I'm sorry. Dad did everything he could. I didn't expect to break my promise. It was my fault for not being able to protect you. Just when Solin's knife was about to pierce my skull once again, Jirushi immobilized her. I already said, you can't touch him. Jirushi's voice was full of anger and even contained a trace of murderous intent. With no other choice, Solin stopped fighting the zombies and decided to head toward building number 5. At the very least, she had to finish off the king of the zombies tonight. Everything seemed to be a futile effort. When I saw Solin trying to reach Building 5, I raised my machete to stop her. Building 5 is my last line of defense. I will not allow anyone to enter. But just when I swung my machete, that strange force descended again. Facet! I'm going to kill them. Let me go if you're brave. Let's fight properly. From afar, Yerushu observed my desperation and felt confused. Why is Dad acting like this today? Normally, I see him hiding among the zombies. Why is he fighting so desperately against the evolved ones today? My strange behavior today left Yerushu completely perplexed. Is the king of the zombies really in Building C? Even though I checked every floor and every room of Building C, there are only supplies. More supplies. Where is the trace of the king of the zombies? Are these zombies protecting the supplies that their own father gathered? Are those materials useful to zombies? What is really inside Building C? Could it be to protect me? While Yerushu reflected, she suddenly stopped. Something occurred to her. She quickly looked at the zombie father who was furiously trying to stop the officer. At that moment, the zombie father's face had become incredibly pale. This terrifying appearance was something Yerushu had never seen before. Yerushu was petrified for a moment. Dad was so desperate that he was even willing to hurt himself, to protect not the king of the zombies, but me, who is on the 7th floor. The real reason for his fury was not the danger to the king of the zombies, but the fear that I would be discovered. At this moment, Solin is being used as a punching bag. She couldn't take it anymore and screamed in fury. Upon hearing this, Jiru also reacted. After discovering her father's identity as the king of the cadavers, she also felt a bit of remorse. Now that things have reached this point, there is no way to stop this fight. I can't simply tell Solin that the fight is over. The king of the cadavers, who was originally meant to be killed, turns out to be my father. So Yerushu decided not to get involved anymore. After all, Solin has never seen me before. If you're unlucky, that's your problem. Besides, you have 9 lives. Even if you die now, you can revive. At most, you'll suffer a little. If I hadn't intervened to save you before, maybe you wouldn't even have this life. Without Yerushu's help, Sane can only be crushed. I grabbed her by the neck, and as I tightened my hand, Sane lost consciousness. You can't revive this time. I won't kill you. Let's see how you revive now. Then I used a hammer to break Solin's legs. A heart-wrenching scream, like that of a pig, echoed between the buildings. Solin's voice sounded especially harrowing at night. The pain of having her legs broken caused Solin to wake up from her faint due to lack of oxygen, But the next moment, the pain from her broken legs hit her again, and Saulene lost consciousness once more. Before losing consciousness, San could only think of Yiru Shui. Yiru Shu, traitor. This time you've ruined me completely. Then I picked up a chain in front of Building C. It was originally meant to secure the unit's door, but now it will serve to tie San up. Yushu was watching everything from the balcony on the second floor. She couldn't believe that her always kind and considerate father also had such a ruthless side. But Yiru Shuen not only did not feel repulsed, but in her heart, she felt great joy. In this apocalyptic world, compassion only harms you. Compassion only harms you. According to the current situation, having the 9 dead police in Dad's hands is the best possible option. Although this woman is easy to deceive, she is not stupid. Besides, she already knows information about the king of the cadavers, so we cannot let her go under any circumstances. Now that Dad has broken her legs to limit her movements, it is undoubtedly the best solution. As for whether Seolin will suffer from this, Yiru Shuen does not care at all. In her heart, her father has always been the most important. Dad's identity as the king of the cadavers must not be revealed under any circumstances. She is determined. If she can obtain power strong enough, even if Dad's identity as the king of the cadavers is revealed, she will be able to protect him without problems. Seeing that the 9 dead police has been captured by Dad, a large number of cadavers have gathered beneath Building C. So she had to use her telekinesis to lift herself up, and without being detected by other cadavers, she managed to reach the roof of Building C. Carefully, she returned to the room. Then Yiru Shu closed the bedroom door, pretending to be asleep. After dealing with Solin, I sent cadavers to patrol the neighborhood. I took Solin to the 6th floor of Building C to prevent her from committing suicide and also tied her hands. After doing this, I returned to the 7th floor. Opening the door, I saw Asia Aoki sleeping soundly in the small bed. As long as you can grow up healthy and strong, Dad is willing to give his life for you. Then I gently closed the door. Yiru Shui opened her eyes. In her clear and bright eyes, there was an extremely complex emotion unusual for her age. Dad is still the same as before. What is Dad's evolution ability after awakening? It is likely that after the apocalypse, he will become cannon fodder. But now I no longer have to worry about that. Yiru Shuen couldn't help but remember those powerful lords of the cadavers she saw in her past life. Each of them was extremely cunning and deceitful and very attached to their own lives. Around the king of the cadavers, there was always a crowd of evolved cadavers to protect him, fearful of the slightest danger. But so far, by my side, there is only Dad. No other cadaver has approached since then. Yiru Shua understood in her heart that this was undoubtedly because Dad retained his human consciousness, which controlled everything. That's why he didn't want other cadavers to approach me. This feeling of being treasured deep in the heart is something he experienced this precious family bond in his past life, something that Jusue deeply valued. Dad, don't worry. You're not alone now. I'm here by your side. From now on, I'll be your strongest bodyguard. I also began to reflect on the events of the night. I can't understand it. These two people, one can die, and then come back to life with several times more strength. The abilities of these two guys are becoming more and more incredible. Instead of taking advantage of the chaos to become famous, why do they insist on messing with my sunshine community? Could it be that they are here specifically to confront me? I don't think they've discovered me. That strange force that was restraining me has finally disappeared. It's probably because that evolved one has reached the limit of his energy and can no longer use it. It seems that I must quickly control a second-stage combat corpse. Otherwise, these human survivors will become stronger and harder to deal with in the future. The next morning, after a night of suffering, Sao Lin slowly woke up. Seeing the unfamiliar surroundings before her, her mind felt confused. What's going on? Am I not dead? She had barely regained consciousness when a sharp pain struck her. She quickly looked down and discovered that her legs had been crushed and were still bleeding, a scene so gruesome that even she could not look directly at it. At the same time, she recalled how the corpses had used her as a punching bag the night before. Besides her legs, Cao Lin felt as if her entire body was shattered. Damn, the invisible! The plan was about to succeed, but it still failed. We agreed to kill the King of the Corpses together, but you left me alone in the building. You idiot! This time, Cao Lin experienced what it meant to not fear a powerful opponent, but to fear an incompetent ally. But she didn't even know what the other person looked like, so she had no chance of taking revenge. After complaining for a while, Cao Lin, enduring the pain throughout her body, began to observe her surroundings. Looking up, she saw the evolution of the King of the Dead at the door, staring at her without doing anything, which immediately frightened her. This King of the Dead always stares at me and does nothing. Could he be being controlled by the King of the Dead? Cao Lin frowned. Now I'm trapped in the hands of that King of the Dead. It's strange. He's already caught me. Why doesn't he kill me? Could it be that this King of the Dead has realized that I can revive, and that's why he doesn't kill me? Upon thinking of this possibility, Cao Lin's pupils contracted, and a deep shock flashed in her eyes. It shouldn't be like this. If it were, the intelligence of this King of the Dead would be too high. Cao Lin then began to observe the room she was in. To her surprise, the room was filled with baby products. Formula milk, diapers, baby clothes. There were even books and toys. If you didn't know better, you might think this was a storage room for a specialized baby store. The amount of baby products in this room truly left Cao Lin puzzled. This room doesn't seem like a place where a King of the Dead would live. It's incredible that there are mountains of formula milk and diapers here. What the hell is this King of the Dead trying to do? Cao Lin had only heard that the dead devoured human flesh, but had never heard of a King of the Dead also drinking milk. She really didn't understand what was going on in this Sunshine residential complex. Not only does it have things like these, but the King of the Dead who controls others even acts so strangely. Seeing Cao Lin wake up from Lightning's perspective, he feared that this officer might suddenly commit suicide. If she revives and her power increases even more, it would be a big problem for me. It's really annoying. I don't know how to handle this woman. I can't let her go, but I can't kill her either. Stopping her suicidal thoughts won't be easy. After all, if this woman really wants to die, it would be difficult for me to stop her. So annoying. You like being a saint so much? Then I'll fulfill your desire to save the world with justice. Let's see if you can keep being so righteous all the time. I took the paper and pen that Xiao Kiki used to practice and began to write clumsily. Dad, what are you doing? Live well. If you die, everyone at the station will follow you to the afterlife. Yiru Shu reacted immediately. This is a message from Dad for that police. Dad knows that police, that, can revive and become stronger, so he's worried that she will choose to commit suicide and cause even more problems later. He wants to use the lives of the people at the station to completely cut off the Death Demon's suicidal thoughts. Currently, in the early stages of the apocalypse, the Death Demon is still somewhat naive, fully believing in goodness and beauty. She's the kind of person willing to sacrifice herself for the lives of others. As expected, that damn King of the Dead is really despicable. As the Invisible said, these kings of the dead are all cunning traitors.